This is a Film Stories original podcast.
Hello, Hot Bonus here, and I'm here to say that this episode of the Shipwrecked and Comatose podcast is proudly sponsored by Bullet Bouncer Bulletproof Vests. Bullet Bouncers are cutting edge and pristine engineering, which means that whenever you find yourself in a situation where you're walking past a senator's daughter getting kidnapped by vaguely origin terrorists to ensure timelessness, any gunfire will bounce off you. Accidentally walks into the wrong side of a firing range? No problem. Bullet Bouncers are equipped with the anti-shooty thing technology, which means that bullets are immediately repelled from your body, and no harm will come to you at all. So, if you find yourself mysteriously invited to a warehouse and had your life attempted to be taken by an assailant that I can't name for legal reasons, and not because it's taken 2 years not to come up with a satisfying answer, then you'll clearly survive to annoy Mark, and then Bullet Bouncers are the choice for you. And because you are a proud listener to the Shipwrecked and Comatose podcast, you can go to the Bullet Bouncer website and have 46.75% off your 7th purchase of our $110 bulletproof vest polish. All you have to do is go to the website and use the code Hob Will Never Die. It's all one word, all capitals, Hob Will Never Die on the Bullet Bouncer website. And that's me, but Hob Bonus, just here to say I'm still here, and thank you for listening to Shipwrecked and Comatose podcast, sponsored by the Bullet Bouncer Bulletproof Vest Company.
Welcome to the Starlight Ballroom. Hey!
Hello everyone and welcome to fucking Shipwrecked and Comatose and Merry Christmas. My name is Kurt North and we've taken 35 minutes to get here. Welcome to our Christmas special where all of us are available. That is Mark Adams, myself Kurt North, Carl Bryan,
hello,
Matt Latham,
hello,
and Colin Jackson Brown. We are here to celebrate Christmas. How are you all? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry fucking Christmas.
Ah, humbug.
By taking so long to start recording, it's closer to Christmas than it would have been.
Good point.
Very true.
We're taking the supermarket and capitalism approach to Christmas by doing things in the fucking November.
In the fucking November.
Yeah.
Right, the reason we're doing that is so that we can prep for the fucking Promised Land minute, innit?
What, the one in February that was announced?
Definitely February. Maybe March.
Notice there wasn't a year at the end.
2038.
We'll run it alongside the 6th series of Titan.
Yep.
That will be, well, yeah, Titan's going to be an interesting one. I mean, we haven't heard of anything else.
Titan ain't happening. It ain't happening. It's bollocks.
But regardless of Titan, I'm moving on to a different subject. Mr. Latham and a friend. Who was the friend that went to see Mr. Chris Barry? That's 3 of us over the course of this year that's seen Mr. Barry recently.
We have.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. Me and Matt went to see him at the Square Eyes TV Festival in Birmingham on Friday.
Yeah, we're at the Midlands Arts Centre. To put it into perspective, the Friday was the 1st of November, so I'm not sure when you actually be listening to this. But yeah,
Christmas
Day.
Yeah, so during Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Matt.
So nearly a month and a half ago.
I don't know when we'll be listening to it. Christmas 2016.
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah, we're going back.
How are we going to do that?
We're going to go back in time, Cole. Going to go back in time.
Yeah, we saw Chris Barry. We ended up watching episode of Red Dwarf. We watched Rimmerworld. Interestingly enough, David Baldwin, the Master of Ceremonies that was chatting to Chris Barry, came out saying that the plan was for him to turn up and show up at the front after the episode had aired, but he said, "Oh, can I watch the episode?" So yes, he came out, introduced it, spoke, they had a chat for about 5 minutes, just introduced stuff, saying I've not seen this in about 30 odd years. Sat down and watched the whole of Rimworld, and that's probably the first time he's watched it probably since it's probably aired. So he sat down and watched it, and then pretty much had like a Q&A about an hour
with a lot of nice sort of clips of other things that he'd been in over the years, like Carrot Confidential on election night 1983.
Yeah.
And there was his short cameo in Blackadder, Blackadder the Third.
I'm French.
That's the one.
Yeah.
They showed quite a long clip from British Empire, from series. It was series 6. Series 6 because Laura wasn't in it. because basically where basically he ends up electrocuting and killing a bunch of kids.
Okay then. Okay, but good day to have then, because I'd say I saw him in. I know I spoke about that on my back in February time, so that was good to see him, and very similar to you actually. The way you mentioned about him coming out and doing the film and stuff. When I spoke to him, he was like, "Oh right, am I meant to be somewhere?" And I'm going, "You're meant to be doing that talk over there, mate." And he was like, "All right, okay, but I better head off." And then for us, the announcer wasn't around. So he just ended up chatting to us for about 5 minutes before the actual announcer turned up, and he got a massive cheer when he arrived.
Yeah,
So
it's quite organised actually. So it was a case like us. No, you won't be signing anything. You won't be doing this. Blah blah blah. Just like a Q&A and stuff. So like you had about half an hour for Q&A at the end, and surprisingly, all the questions were not usual weird questions that you sometimes get from conventions. Sometimes
did Holly get over his computer rashes?
Yeah.
Yes, something like that. It goes in episode so and so. Like Rimmer said blah blah blah. Whilst on the next shot it was blah blah. I hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
Did you get to ask your question, Colin?
Well, no, it was Matt that had a question that he wanted to ask, but no, he chickened out.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, it was a good one.
It was a really good one.
I was just going to ask about, if a Swedish man crashed his car into a tree.
one of the best jokes of the Dave era. But we're here. It's Christmas time.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
We've done
Christmas.
some Merry Christmas, and we've done some interesting Christmas specials. The last one I did not want to be on whatsoever, and I don't know if that came across on the recording, but I did not want to be on that one.
Was that It's a Wonderful Life?
No, that was the script.
Oh, right, yeah. Because I wasn't on It's a Wonderful Life.
The one with aliens in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are here to talk about the film The Labyrinth. Mark, do you want to say why
sorry,
we're talking?
hang on. We're not the film Labyrinth. We're not talking
The film
about
Labyrinth.
Labyrinth the singer.
No, we're
No.
not. We are not, Matthew.
So why the flipping heck I decided to put him on my Zoom background?
Because you're a bellend.
I didn't know there was a singer called Labyrinth. Is he any good?
I did, yeah.
I did, I just forgot.
The thing is, obviously, hopefully we've got a screen grab of this for the socials, is Matt's background is in full vibrant colour, like red jacket and everything. Matt must be sat next to a light because he looks like he's in
dead.
grayscale in comparison, and it looks very much like one of those albums you get where it's just like, this singing duo, with their new album coming out now.
Have you seen that TikTok with Fiona, where it's like, Fiona, there's a ghost behind you, and, it's a daughter in a broad northern accent.
I'll
what that looks
repost the screen grab. At Christmas.
Yeah, please do. You just want to post it because you've got Bowie's wig behind it and it looks like you've got loads of hair.
It does. I have luxuriant 80s hair.
You look like Tina Turner.
Oh, you had to ruin it, you knob. Hey, we're doing Labyrinth, right? Back on track. We're doing Labyrinth. The reason we're doing Labyrinth is it's fucking great.
And
There are two Red Dwarf connections.
this is going on Make It So, isn't it? Because it's all about a little cohesion with Make It So.
Is it?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cheryl Gates McFadden does the choreography.
Some of the choreography, because
Some
some
of
of the
the choreography.
choreography was done by... So anyway, Quig turns up. Charles Organs. And also, Danny John Jules is one of the Fireys.
Danny John Jules is two of the
Yeah, he
five.
is.
Two of the
Yeah.
five. Correct.
And Charles Organs is the voice of another one, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
And
So
Correct.
Quig actually does turn up.
Yeah.
Quig
does
does actually turn up.
Wow, that ongoing joke that definitely hasn't run its course finally makes sense.
Exactly. Knew it'd happen eventually.
Played for and got, Colin, yeah?
Because it's Christmas, there's a couple of confessions I'll make in this, but the first one is, initially, because I would forget to listen to the show, I had no idea what the "and then Queeg turns up" joke was for at least 2 series. For the first few times, I was like, yeah, Colin, yeah, just no idea.
The other reason we made it the Christmas special is because I just watch this every Christmas. I don't know whether that's a thing other people do, but to me, even though it's not Christmassy, this is a Christmas film.
It seems like it's the kind of film that when you used to have just 4 TV channels would be on the telly at Christmas every year.
I definitely think so.
It's a film that I grew up watching absolutely loads as a kid. I think most of us are the same, but not all of us.
No.
No.
I mean, I would like to host at some point, guys.
Go on then.
So, why even prepare? There's no point, So, Mark, do you watch this often then, Mark?
Every Christmas. Sometimes twice. Last Christmas I watched it with my famous friends, if you've heard of Stephanie Sterling. And
We haven't.
Yeah, you should. They're great.
Carl, when was the last time you watched this film? Apart from obviously for the episode.
At least 7 years ago. I have not watched this in a long, long time. And this is the other confession I'll make. When we're like, yeah, we're going to watch Labyrinth, I was like, yeah, Labyrinth. And then it was about, I've watched it twice for this. And it was about 20 minutes in the first time I watched it going, hang on, I don't remember actually liking Labyrinth.
Right, Christmas is cancelled.
And I've watched it, as I say, twice for this, and it's all right. There's bits I like in it, but it's not one of my go-to ones. It certainly wouldn't beat, like, Muppets Christmas Carol, but...
not much beats Muppets Christmas Carol, to be fair.
Well, no, true, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not one of my go-tos for Christmas. Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, it's not one of my Christmas films, necessarily. Yeah. It's one of my all-year-round films.
Yeah.
Labyrinth is for life, not just for Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I was thinking back to when I potentially... I mean, if it's on, I'll end up watching it. So it's one of those ones, if it just happens to be on, I'll... there's half an hour to go, I'll watch the last half an hour, for example. But the last time I think I actually watched it all the way through was on its 30th anniversary, and it came back out into cinemas.
That's cool.
So we had it at work, so I made a point of making sure that I watched it there. So that was the last time I watched it. And for the podcast, I'm sure we'll get into it. There's quite a few bits that I haven't really considered. I mean, 2016 was right before I started podcasting and really thinking about shows with a critical eye. It's not really something I did before 2016. It were just shows I loved. So it's interesting going back to it.
It is definitely the first time I've watched this in anything other than I'm going to sit after having had a lot of food and just hang out with friends and just kind of absorb something comfortable and familiar. I actually watched this critically, it's for the first time as well, and the experience is different. But what I have decided about Labyrinth, that it is probably the greatest children's film of all time. I thought it, and then I critically analysed it, and it is the greatest children's film of all time.
Okay. Well, it's going to be interesting diving into it. I've left Matt to the end because, as we might have alluded to, Matt, you've got a slightly different history with this film.
Yeah, I mean, first time I watched it was less than 48 hours ago.
How have you not seen Labyrinth? It's just like a staple of telly and childhood. How have you... Oh.
I've got a couple of theories here, because Matt obviously goes to more gigs than anyone else we know, but didn't start going to gigs until 2006, was it?
2009.
2009?
Yeah, I was 24.
Matt, are you in a witness protection program?
He's gone white as a sheet now.
Are you like Mr. Bean, where you were sort of like just dropped to earth? What the fuck were you doing before 2009?
I think I was in a test tube. I think I just walked out like fully
That makes
formed
sense.
in this naturally or Adonis form that I...
Are we like Sam Rockwell in Moon?
Possibly, yes. Either that, I just played a lot of Final Fantasy.
That'd do it, yeah. I just thought you'd be like the lad in Holy Grail who just stares out the window just going, There's got to be something to do.
Well, so particularly until going years back now, this is like message forum days where I used to hang on message boards, one of them being a certain Tony Black. Like there's an ongoing joke about the fact that I'd not seen a lot of films.
Right.
So to the fact that they're referred to as the Latham list of like just films that were just like
Whoa,
people have never
right.
watched. To the point where he actually came to place, so what are people's personal Latham lists? And just like this, I mean, to this day, I've still not seen the original Alien.
To be fair on that, Matt, I hadn't seen the original Alien until, I want to say, 2020?
So so Alien is probably going to be on your Latham list for longer than perhaps, yeah.
And I've got it on my watch list now because I can't remember. I think I have seen it, but it was at least 15 years ago.
If we're talking Latham lists, I haven't seen The Shawshank Redemption.
No, neither have I.
No, it's really good.
That's like my second favourite film of all time.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it? Like, 3 of us haven't. Yeah.
My wife Helen berates me all the time for not having seen Shawshank Redemption. Labyrinth, however, is her favourite film ever.
I knew I liked Helen.
Yeah.
So yes, the original question being, I watched it for the first time about 48 hours ago, and I don't know why. It's just one of those films I just never had any drive to really watch it. Just missed it. I think it was 1986. I was
1986, yeah. November 1986 it came out.
Yeah, so I was 1 year old when it came out, so must have just missed it, I think.
Which is interesting because in America, if it got released in the UK, 28th of November 1986, which makes it pretty much a Christmas film.
Yeah.
True.
Fair. Matt, did you have like any? So I always see this as part of the like canon of classic 80s fantasy films. So like Never-Ending Story,
Never seen it.
Princess Bride,
Never.
Return to Oz.
Return to Oz, I watched.
Don't talk about Return to Oz. Childhood
Does it give
fucking
you nightmares?
trauma. Those fucking wheelers.
Willow.
Not seen it.
Goonies isn't as much fantasy, but I'd sort of lump that in with it as well. It's part of that sort of genre of films.
I'm not much a real fantasy fan. I mean,
Right.
the Lord of the Rings films I've only ever watched once.
I'm in Matt's position there. I'm not much of a fantasy fan person. I've seen Lord of the Rings once, but I actually do like Labyrinth, which is unusual, but I think some of the darker tones with Labyrinth is probably what drew me to it, and we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like Labyrinth. I haven't seen Goonies.
Really?
Doesn't interest me in the slightest at all.
I rewatched Goonies recently. It hasn't aged as well as I'd like. There's quite a lot of unpleasant bullying in it.
Flash
Yeah.
Gordon. I did used to watch Flash Gordon a lot. That was,
Yeah.
I would say that's in the 80s fantasy realm. That was my sexual awakening.
Brian, bless
Hey,
him.
Ming the
Ming the
Merciless.
Was that 80s or was that late 70s?
Flash, was it not 1980?
Oh, it might have been at 1980. Yeah.
That's one of those films that I would like to watch on a remastered version of. I know there is one for the recent anniversary.
A remastered Princess Aura getting whipped would be very nice indeed. Thank you very much. And I was 10 years old when it came out.
It was a bit sexy, wasn't it, Flash Gordon, now you're thinking
It
about
was a
it?
bit sexy.
Yeah.
It was.
I don't think I've seen that either.
You'd like it, it's quite sexy, man. And Timothy Dalton's in it.
Right, so we will ask, because we don't want to colour Matt's opinion of the film. So what did you generally make of it? What were your highlights of the film before we actually go into it in depth? How did you enjoy it? Did you think it was a bit pap? What do you think?
I
me?
think you should talk about your... you did a list of your preconception or your things that you knew about it.
I was going to quickly ask the four of you, when did you first watch Labyrinth?
Ooh.
It would have been on telly as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been really young.
I'd guess it was around 1987 or 1988 that it would have been on the telly. So I'd have been 10.
I would imagine video release probably 87, so it was probably network TV premiere 88 or 89. And that will have been when I watched it for the first time.
So you're like, all of you was like under the age of 10, so children when you watched
Yes,
Pretty much,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
definitely.
it? Okay. I remember that.
There's definitely an element of nostalgia to it. It is like a comfy blankie, and I won't deny that.
Okay. Yeah, so as Colin alludes to, I kind of, just before I watched it, I had like a list of things that I think I kind of got from osmosis or cultural osmosis from my preconceptions of Labyrinth. So this is what I wrote. So I've written what I think about this movie before I watch. David Bowie's in a wig. This has Muppets in it, or at least work from the Jim Henson workshop. But I might be getting it confused with The Dark Crystal, which I've also never watched. As I type this out, I'm beginning to doubt that. I think Jennifer Connelly's in this. There may be songs in it. So that's the only things I could really think of about Labyrinth at this time.
You're pretty close.
I was going to say, you're pretty much spot on all of that.
Yeah, most of your, prior knowledge was correct. And yeah, Dark Crystal obviously was the predecessor to this. Dark Crystal was really seen as a failure, even though it's really good. But mainly because it was really dark. And I think people were expecting from Jim Henson things like the Muppets.
Yeah.
And because it was something so dark, it didn't go down as well. So Labyrinth was sort of an attempt to course correct, with it making it a lot lighter and there's a lot more comedy in it and that kind of thing. Which is why David Bowie agreed to be in it, because he liked The Dark Crystal, but he wanted to make a children's film that was, suitable for young kids as well, and wasn't likely to give them nightmares.
Okay.
So with all that in mind, you watched it 48 hours ago. What are your first impressions?
So the reason I asked you about when you first watched it was I want to talk about a slightly different film for a second. I want to talk about Tron. I watched Tron for the first time about 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Because I was having a conversation about games like the Latham list, for example, and someone I worked with was like, I said, oh, for example, Tron. I think we was talking about Tron something. I was like, and he grew up watching it, and I watched it, and the next day I think I spoke to him and I was like, you know what? I'm probably about 15 years too late to watch Tron. Yeah.
I had a similar experience with Tron, actually. I could see why people liked it, but because there wasn't a nostalgia, because I watched it just a couple of years ago, just before Tron Legacy came out, because I wanted to watch Tron Legacy, and I was like, that's all right.
I see. I was just like, when I watched Tron. And the reason I bring that up is that I think the same things happen with Labyrinth.
Right.
In that. And I've probably got several films that I think that if people watched now when I was a kid, would probably just go, oh, that I probably loved bits. But I think I had a similar reaction to this. So I was watching this and I was like, oh, okay. There are parts of it that I really quite liked. I can kind of see elements of okay, I can see how later kind of Henson Company films would build on this, or particularly Bryan Henson would find bits of this and then incorporate the good bits from this and put more of them into Christmas Carol, for example, and then Muppets Christmas Carol, Treasure Island would build on that as well.
Which you do really love, don't you?
At a push, I would I prefer subjectively Treasure Island, even though objectively Christmas Carol I think's practically nearly perfect.
I've not seen Treasure Island. I know the song at the start, but I've not seen Treasure Island.
See, Treasure Island, I think, is probably going to have... So I've got a feeling that you probably watch Treasure Island and you probably won't have the same reaction to it that I had when I watched it as a kid.
Yeah.
So if you go and watch Muppets Treasure Island, you probably won't have... You'll probably come out with it feeling perhaps slightly similar how I felt with, Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, part of it felt quite a bit dated, which... I've always think is an unfair kind of criticism to give anything anyway, so that's on me. But I feel like I was 30 years late watching it, and if I watched it perhaps as an 8 or 9-year-old, and probably have it with the same reverence as I think everyone else has, and all the people that make Instagram messaging me when I said I was watching it, saying, "How the hell have you not watched this before?"
The thing is, though, Matt, it's it didn't do well at the box office. It didn't do well. It wasn't regarded as a good film. It's one of those ones, like Blade Runner wasn't, because the lines aren't sort of really well delivered. It's not. Some of it is great acting, and some of it is really bad acting. Some of it has got really short, really weird scripted parts in it, and I know a lot of it was being done necessarily quite close on the fly. So I can totally see that. Even watching it myself after not watching it since 2016, I can see that watching it.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that aspect of it.
Yeah, because I was reading basic stuff, and I think this they kind of cannibalised Terry Jones' script, because I was like, oh, written by Terry Jones. Oh, okay. As I was watching it, I was like, there are bits and pieces that sound very, very Python-esque in places where I feel that's like Terry Jones. There's one of my favourite bits was when I was walking through the bit with the talking with the walls with the faces, and one of them goes, "I'm only doing my job," which I think is completely a Terry Jones line.
Yeah.
The whole bits with the door knockers, I think, also Terry Jones or very Python-esque. So yeah, I'll be very curious to see if there's a copy of the Terry Jones script online or something, just to see what his full script was.
It went through loads of different people. So you've got Bryan Frood basically started it out with a load of his art. So he drew loads of characters. Terry Jones had a pile of this artwork on his desk, and he was looking through it, and every time he saw a character, he was like, right, I'm going to write a scene for them now. And it was like he was collaborating with him, even though they didn't actually, work together. He just got this pile of art to sort of inspire him. And then Jim Henson had got like the basic outline of the idea. Terry Jones then wrote all that. Then it went on to Dennis Lee, who wrote Fraggle Rock. It went on to Laura Phillips, who's another Fraggle Rock writer. So she sort of added a lot of like emotion and humanity to the story. Then Jim Henson secretly got a screenwriter called Elaine May to work on it. And then it went back to Terry Jones again. There was also George Lucas was secretly rewriting part of the script, but he didn't want a credit on there because he didn't want to take any of the limelight off Jim Henson, who's one of his best friends.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think because when it originally got to the point of starting to film, it was something like the book called "A Girl Who's Out There" or something. There was 2 books it was very, very similar to.
Yeah, it's the guy that wrote Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah, and then there was another book, wasn't there? There was a girl who's out there, it was very, very similar. Where it was like goblins and the baby and all the drawings and stuff like that, which were very, very similar. There was another book as well.
So I was watching this. I'm assuming the Kuchi Gatwa's first story as the Doctor.
Yes.
With the Goblin King and the baby being taken.
That was a tribute to Labyrinth, absolutely 100%.
It did feel like it, yes.
Because part of me was like, oh my God, they've nicked this from Doctor Who. And I'm like, no, Matt, no. Think about it, Matt. Think about it, think it through.
Wibbly wobbly.
Yeah, I was going to say Doctor Who travels through time, so...
But the whole process, they brought in David Bowie really late. He only had like maybe 2 or 3 months to write the songs, and considering that, they're fucking masterpieces.
Isn't there a myth that he'd already got them for something else and he dropped them in?
I don't know if that's true.
There's like an urban legend that these were meant to go on something and he dropped them in to the film. But they do work. He must have done some adjusting on them. But, I mean, looking into this, before they decided they wanted Bowie, originally it was going to be either Kevin Kline or Simon McCorkindale.
Right.
Colin, you know what he played, don't you?
The name rings a bell, but I can't think of it at the moment.
Manimal.
Right, yeah.
Oh yes, I saw that. Yeah. I didn't make anything to me. I was like, I don't know what that is.
IMDb suggested that Michael Jackson, Sting, and Mick Jagger were considered for the part as well.
That's true. So the 2 actors that Carl mentioned, I believe, were the sort of first plans. Then somebody gave Henson the idea. I think it was Jim Henson's daughter gave him the idea to cast a pop star in the role. Yeah. And the Behind the Labyrinth making of documentary that's on the DVD, you've got Jim Henson talking as if, and immediately we wanted David Bowie for that, which is fucking bollocks because he wanted Sting. It was Sting was his first choice, and they also talked about Michael Jackson and Prince.
Prince,
there's alternative realities where Michael Jackson and Sting and Prince wrote the songs for Labyrinth.
Yeah, but if Prince had a say in what the storyline would have been in this, it would have been some weird shit.
You say that like this film wasn't filled with some weird shit.
Yeah, but it'd be like Prince level weird shit.
Have you seen Purple Rain?
Yes,
I have. Great song, horrendous film.
Not seen it.
This is interesting because I'm going to go right back to the start here because I didn't get a chance to say it. But you know how you put Labyrinth on your back screen, Matt, right?
Yeah.
We once went to a gig, or we were going to rehearsal to do a gig, and we were just all set up, and we all started like sort of getting ourselves together, put the drum kit up together, put the bass guitar, singer, and everything was ready to go. And the drummer starts to count 1, 2, 3, 4, and something was obviously drastically wrong, right? Because we were like, what the fuck's happened here? So what's happening here? And what happened is that the drummer had learnt Purple Haze. And
That is not the
we
same
were doing
song.
Purple Rain.
Beautiful. Do you know the other film, 8 years later, that Michael Jackson was originally wanted for the main role?
Moonwalker.
The Crow.
The Crow?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck right off.
The studio initially wanted Michael Jackson to play Eric Draven as the Crow and make it a musical.
Yeah, really weird. I didn't know that.
I love The Crow, and I love The Crow soundtrack. I wish that existed as well, because I really want to see that.
I see through the eyes of the crow, 'cause it can't rain all the time.
Jamal.
That was a very convincing Michael Jackson impression there, Carl. Sounded just like him.
I only found this out recently that Michael Jackson's real voice was way deeper than his,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, my name's Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a Cockney.
Yeah, I'm going to laugh at you.
If Sting got the role, can you imagine a sort of Geordie King of the Goblins?
I mean, did they not learn from June?
Well, yeah. Mind you, in this film, just through the various characters, the accents, the range of random accents that are in this film.
Well, that's another thing, because in my head, I'd absolutely, for some reason in my head, thought this was a British
Yeah.
film, like a proper British film. And you think, oh, actually, Jennifer Connelly isn't British. So, it's a Hollywood movie.
It was made at Shepperton, though. So there's a
It was
lot...
Elstree, wasn't it? I thought it was
could have been-
Elstree.
yeah, you're right, it was Elstree. But yeah, it was obviously a British studio, so there were a lot of British people working on it.
Because the Henson company pretty much based in the UK, weren't they? Because the Muppets TV show was filmed in the UK. It was at ITV because they couldn't get any US network to pick them up, so they just based themselves in the UK. So there's
Oh, I didn't know that.
so the Muppets and the Henson company.
I think the only part that wasn't was Sesame Street was in America, but everything else was
Yeah.
UK. Yeah.
I don't know what it is about Sesame Street, but it's unmistakably American. I can't put my finger on why I think it's American, but it's definitely.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like a British version of Sesame Street? It would not be as wholesome as
No. I mean, we've been just like Rainbow and Grot Bags, haven't we? So,
yeah.
we've got those type of shows.
That's it. That's where Matt was. You were a pink windmill kid.
Fucking hell.
I will not have any kind of slander on Wizardora or Wizardora's friends.
Oh, dear.
Oh, well, that was an interesting discussion. Thank you and good night.
Merry Christmas.
David Bowie was sexy. Let's talk about how sexy David Bowie was. Because he was really sexy.
Was it the hair that you liked?
Yeah.
Oh, was his magical crystal balls?
Yeah.
Did he enjoy his crystal
His
balls?
face. And let's be real, we all know what I'm referencing.
The hair.
The crystal ball thing, that's quite a cool filming thing that they did with that. Because it's...
Well, it wasn't for the guy doing it, because he pretty much broke his back doing it.
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
he?
Obviously, Bowie couldn't do all of the weird crystal ball things.
Contact ball. Yeah.
So there's a guy called Michael Moschen who was doing all that. But what he was doing the whole time, he was standing directly behind David Bowie, reaching his arm round, and it was him that was playing with Bowie's balls.
Is there any Red Dwarf illusion there, potentially?
Yes. Ray Mantzarek, isn't it? With his arms through Craig Charles to
Oh,
play
of
the
course,
guitar.
playing the guitar, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the first thing that came to mind when I saw that.
You know that if that guy's still around, he's at conventions like Michael Munchin from Labyrinth, and he's got the Bowie outfit on, spinning the balls, with the music playing in the background, and he doesn't really say anything. It's about it.
To be fair, I'd pay to see that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed his ball manipulation.
Yeah. Well, mate can do it. It's really good. If you get good at it, it's really impressive.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But yeah, so yeah, we have talked about Bowie as the part and his parts and and everything else. Like we were saying about Princess Aura and my sexual awakening. Mark, was there any kind of sexual awakening for you?
I don't think so. I think my attraction to David Bowie came a little bit later. I liked Bowie as a kid, and
What about Ludo?
I think I liked what? Yeah, that's what solved it. That's Ludo made me gay.
There's the headline.
There's the
Friend. You can imagine, like,
More
Mark gets
friend.
Mark gets really romantic. Friend.
Whoa! Who's put the fucking surveillance camera in my house?
Do you get hung upside down and move rocks?
Yeah.
Is that what
I
you
get
do?
hung upside down. I don't. I'd find that thoroughly unpleasant, but I'd do it to someone else. With consent. Make that clear.
Okay. That's fine.
But yeah, David Bowie is hot, but I don't think there was a childhood crush on David Bowie. My first childhood crush was Dominic Monaghan in Hetty Wainthropp Investigates.
Oh, interesting.
Slightly different to this. Okay, is there anything behind the scenes, Colin, that you want to bring up before we start talking a little bit more actually of the film itself?
I've got loads of random bits of behind-the-scenes stuff, but I have not put them in any fucking order whatsoever. They'll come up as we go along.
I mean, something that I noticed was how many people auditioned for Sarah.
Yes. Have you got the list?
I've got the list. And it's interesting because, obviously, this was 86. Some of them I don't think were actually that well known yet. So, looking at the list, you've got... The first one's Helena Bonham Carter. But then they decided they wanted an American. Jane Krakowski, who's mostly famous for 30 Rock.
30 Rock, yeah.
Alan McBeal.
Yes.
Alan McBeal.
Yasmin Bleeth, who was in Baywatch.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was.
Sarah Jessica Parker.
Okay, in another world, I would not like this film if she was in this film.
Yeah.
Full stop. I can't stand her. I cannot physically stand her.
Hocus Pocus is amazing.
For years, I also said during when Godzilla came out, I went, I can't stand Matthew Broderick, and I didn't know they were married.
Brilliant.
Do you know when I found out they were married? Then.
Yeah. The next ones were Marissa Tomei, who'd have been great.
Okay.
Was Marissa Tomei in Legend, or am I thinking... No, I'm thinking of Mia Sara, who's also one of the people who got auditioned for this, from Ferris Bueller and Legend. Laura Dern, Ali Sheedy, someone called Maddie Corman, who I don't know who that is, but apparently she got down to the last three, and it was Krakowski, Sheedy, and Corman, and then Jennifer Connelly walked in and just took it. And she's only 14 in this.
Yeah.
Yes, we will get to that.
Yeah.
It's an unusual thing, because she's 14, and the character's either 15 or 16. You normally
Yeah,
get it the other way
15.
round.
Yeah.
You quite often get, like, 23-year-olds playing teenagers and stuff like that.
And if you look at Jennifer Connelly now, she's really not age. I mean, from 14, she's just sort of got a bit taller. She's really great genes. Great genes.
Yeah.
She's got great genes.
Great genes.
Lovely pair of
Yeah.
jeans.
I'm dropping in things now that I think will possibly make t-shirts.
Not in the Labyrinth, Mark. I'm talking more of like things like Top Gun and stuff.
Yeah.
I've not seen Top Gun.
Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. You do not want to think of her as
What have I
being the
missed?
same actress. That's not right. But she looks the fucking same, and that's
Yeah, she does.
disturbing.
Okay, I've just learned who she's married to.
Yeah.
Who?
Paul Bettany.
Yeah. Again,
Vision.
really handsome dude. And he's not changed much in 30 years either.
He played an albino, didn't he, in
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci's
Yeah.
Code? I think Matt could have played that.
Good to that.
I'm buying a new fucking webcam.
I remember first thing I saw Paul Bettany in was Killer Net on Channel 4. It was like a Linda LaPlante thing about a video game where people wound up dead who played it. And they advertised it as Jason Orange from Take That's first major acting role.
And possibly last. Has he done anything else?
I doubt it, yeah.
That's the most Carl Bryan thing that's come out of this podcast.
Right, so have we got any other casting things?
Still haven't started talking about the film.
I know.
No.
Frank Oz, we've got Oz in there, haven't we? You know,
Yeah.
he pops up.
Toby, the baby, was originally supposed to be a character called Freddy, but wouldn't respond to anybody saying Freddy, so they had to change his name to Toby because his real name is Toby.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it's actually Toby Froud. He's the son of Brian Froud, who designed all the creatures and stuff. There's a scene where Toby is sat on Jareth's lap, and Toby would not stop screaming. So what they had to do was, there is out of shot on Bowie's other hand is a sooty puppet in one of the scenes.
So Sooty's in this movie.
He's just out of shot.
Great.
There is Sooty.
Sooty's a Muppet.
The other thing I'd like to mention as well, are you aware, is people aware of the 7 faces of Bowie?
Yes.
No.
No.
So right through the film, it's kind of like The Man, where it's like there's 7 faces of Bowie hidden within different aspects. There's one in the Labyrinth itself. There's one during the Helping Hand scene.
There's some that are a lot more obvious than others, aren't there?
Yeah,
'Cause
the
there's-
rocks.
Someone pointed this out to me on Threads when I posted it. On our new Threads account. Well, it was new at the time of recording. I posted this and I got some replies already saying like, "Oh, did you notice the faces of Bowie? Don't search for them." But that's what after I watched it, I'm like, I'm not watching it again. I'll just Google it.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well, there's the rock face one is the most obvious one, because that's one that's when the camera moves out of its shot, it's like a face of Bowie, and then it just kind of like spreads out, and you can't really see
In
it.
like 3
So-
parts, so you have to be in exactly
Yeah.
the right angle, yeah.
The one I noticed today, when I watched it again today, was the doll. When she goes back into the bedroom in the junkyard,
Yes.
there's a little doll of Jareth on the side.
He's there at the start.
Yeah.
He's in her
Yeah.
bedroom anyway.
Oh, is he? Oh, I
Yeah.
didn't see it.
In Sarah's bedroom, the entire room is full of things alluding to stuff that will happen later.
Oh, okay.
The first thing you see is a toy that looks like one of the Fireys. There's a Labyrinth game. You know, the old Labyrinth game where it's like the wooden thing with the maze where you move
Yes. Silver
the
ball.
sort of
Fun
tilt
game,
the ball
actually.
kind of thing. There's a load of books, so there's like Wizard of Oz where the wild things are, and Grimm's fairy tales and stuff like that. There's a bookend of Hoggle, a toy squirrel that looks just like Sir Didymus, even though he's not a squirrel. Then, yes, there's a statue of Jareth on the desk.
Yeah.
There's the Escher stairs poster on a wall.
Yeah.
And there's also a scrapbook, which is some backstory about her mum that's never actually talked about in the film, but is in the it was in the novelisation. Her mum was a famous stage actress that had left her dad, which is why it's her dad and her stepmum in the house at the start. Her mum basically had an affair with another actor, and this scrapbook has got pictures of her and her mum, and the actor is played by David Bowie.
Brilliant.
On top of that, so the backstory of the book is basically that she is an actress that Sarah goes on her 15th birthday party. On her 15th birthday, goes to see her mum
Yeah.
with her stepdad.
Yes.
At which point they go on a dance ballroom. She's given like a blue dress to wear, and he says to her that the flashbulbs around here may cause a bit of a stir because I'm well known. So it's me seeing a beautiful young lady like yourself, which obviously has connotations for the actual movie itself and her mindset. So it's like that Alice in Wonderland thing of like, or Wizard of Oz thing, where you've got all of the things within that scope of like sort of the beginning and the end of the film, and all the idea of the imagination and all that type of thing.
Is that like how on stage productions of Peter Pan, like Wendy's dad and Captain Hook are the same actor?
Yeah.
The dad's called Jeremy, and the Goblin King is Jareth.
Yeah.
The way the book is portraying it as kind of like the stepmother that she should really listen to the stepmother. The stepmother's looking out for her, that she needs to come of age and just like sort of understand and appreciate where she is. And then the stepdad, or the person that she's ran away, the mother's ran away with, is actually that kind of darkness presence that was in her life that might have been a bit untoward towards her and was a bit creepy towards her. And it was her empowering her to like sort of go stand up against that and go, actually, I'm my own person. I can deal with this without actually having that side of the story. So that's kind of what the book is, and the back book gets a lot darker than the
If
movie.
that was at any point in the film, he probably would have made the film a bit more interesting.
Yeah, because in one of the original like drafts of the script, Bowie did play a sort of similar thing in that he was a director that was putting a play on that she was going to star in, and he was also Jareth.
Yeah.
By the sounds of it, this script, from what Colin was saying, it was passed the parcel around and it changed every time.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And the book itself has it's pretty much scene by scene exactly the same, apart from the end. So the end in the book kind of goes to a place of like Sarah's cruel and he's cruel, and they're almost like destined to be like not together, but kind of like sort of there's a bit of a darker element that they're both like grow up to be cruel. But in the book, it gets a lot more, like the ballroom scene is a lot more lurid, like talking about various different things where he's wanting new blood to refresh the gene pool, and that she's too old to be a goblin but too young to be a partner. And there's that cross boundaries thing of like him getting older or feeling like he's getting older and seeing this young girl and actually having a bit more of a kind of lurid kind of look at her, and like having that aspect of like wanting her. So, and it does come across in the movie, I think personally. There is elements of it, but not to the depths of what the book actually delves into. But the book was done after.
For me, I think that's most apparent in the Escher staircase scene, where he seems very upset about everything. That he had that kind of like scorned lover sort of thing going on. Well, it seemed. The thing that gets me though, right? All the goblins are these short little sort of yappy monsters. How come Jareth's the only one that's like this pansexual sex god?
Oh, I know this, right?
Do you? Okay.
He's played by David Bowie, and the rest of them are puppets.
Well, yeah, but okay, that's true.
Now, the serious answer, please.
He's played by David Bowie, and the others are puppets.
Well, the goblins are all babies that have been turned into goblins.
Oh, right. I didn't get that at all.
That was what I thought as well, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying by the way the book portrays Sarah is that she's too old to be turned into a goblin. He's looking for fresh blood that would serve and refresh.
Right.
But she's also too young to be childbearing, yeah. I would probably guess. That's kind of what he was kind of alluding to.
Which is a bit grim.
One of the comments in the ballroom scene says, he relished her face, then her white shoulders, her breast, hips and legs moved closer to her. So there's a clear sexual want there.
I'm glad that's not in the film.
The 80s.
Yeah.
I did not get the goblin baby thing at all.
Yeah. That's the whole thing, isn't it, about if the clock strikes 13, Toby turns into a goblin. So it's just people extrapolated from that there's absolutely loads of goblins, so maybe this has happened loads of times before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that added to the peril that all of these goblins, he's got a whole army of successes, and that means it's clearly difficult to get through the labyrinth. I thought that was what emphasised how bad it was. Well, as well as that wonderful, wonderful painting shot of the maze towards the labyrinth, and that was pretty, wasn't it?
The map painting. The effects in the film are 99% practical effects in this, and they're all amazing.
Absolutely.
Obviously, Jim Henson Creature Shop is just, they're all absolute artists.
Yeah.
Well, those matte paintings were one of the, if not the biggest matte painting that was ever made.
Were they? Doesn't surprise me.
I heard that, yeah. Like I say, this film didn't capture me as much as I thought it would, but from like a technical standpoint, especially like the faces on Hoggle, Ludo and Didymus are so intricate, and when you can see like the scenes where she's like running away holding hands with Hoggle, you can still see like the eyes, like the eyelids are moving and things like that.
Hoggle's one of the most at that point it was the most complex puppet creation they'd ever made. There was an actress inside as like doing the body.
Shari Weezer.
Yeah. But then the headpiece, Brian Henson was controlling it and doing the voice, with like the eyes moving and everything. They've got so many little bits of articulation in there. Are you guys aware of what happened to Hoggle after the movie?
It's almost in a bad state of disrepair, isn't it? It's like some sort of like horror movie.
Basically, what happened is directly after filming, Jim Henson took the Hoggle puppet on a plane where it got lost. It was in a suitcase, and the suitcase just got separated on the plane somewhere. It turned up 12 years later in the unclaimed baggage centre in Alabama, where at first nobody knew what it was. They just opened it and were like, what the fuck is that? Because it had all deteriorated, and it looks, if you Google pictures of it, it looks terrifying. Because all the foam on the face had sort of like rotted away. But yeah, they then got it restored, and it's now in a display case in the unclaimed baggage centre in Alabama.
It's kind of sad, but also kind of cool that it's on display.
It's just amazing that something so to us now is like an iconic puppet, at the time didn't have much thought about it, because I think possibly because the film was a bit of a flop. So I'm wondering if Jim Henson was just like, fair enough, and not that happy. Because he then dropped out from doing movies after that. This was his sort of last-ditch attempt at doing movies, and then he went back to doing...
Died in 1990.
He went back to doing TV with, like, The Storyteller and things like that for a bit, but then, died in 1990. So, I do wonder if that was part of the reason why he didn't try and find it. But it may well be that you just couldn't find it with how, obviously there weren't all the
systems and that,
systems connected. If it had gone to the wrong airport and they didn't know which airport, they haven't really got as much of a way of finding it in 1986.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they lost the Hoggle one. I know they didn't lose the Ludo one because Ludo went to the premiere.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Bowie didn't go to the premiere. Ludo went to the premiere.
Oh, dear.
As a music fan, I'm a big fan of David Bowie's music. I think I'd be just as excited to meet Ludo.
What if... it seems like a thing he'd do. What if Bowie's in the Ludo suit at the premiere?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So, Matt, now you've heard some backstory, and how are you feeling about the film?
I mean, the kind of production side of it, I think, is quite interesting when I was looking into it and stuff. And, like, technically, I think it's interesting, but I think this film worked so that future Jim Henson films could run. So you can definitely trace the lineage of what they did technically from this and what was able to pull off in Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even the show that the Storyteller, is it Storyteller, Colin, the TV show? Because you can, even from that, you can tell there's a learning from it.
Storyteller.
I've not seen it for a very long time, but it was quite a good sort of another sort of fantasy story kind of thing. It was sort of like myths and legends. Yeah,
I'm the same as you, Colin. I kind of half remember it, but not enough to like sort of have it fully imaged in my brain.
Okay, live action puppet series, TV series that aired in 1987, produced by Jim Henson.
Tim Jensen.
Tim Jensen.
Tim Henman.
Tim Henman.
Wasn't Tim Jensen on Capital Gold in the 90s?
Probably.
But I mean, there were parts of the film I thought were that I really liked. The most Jim Henson-ish or Henson Company-ish character in the film, which I think they saw and thought we might need a bit more of the energy that this character in future films that we do, was Sir Didymus.
Yeah,
I love Sir Didymus. I was watching this going like, okay, I can see this is a Henson Company film now.
There's a bit of Rizzo the Rat in there, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is it not the same voice actor?
Oh, it might be.
I think it might be. I know a lot of the voice actors on it were on other Henson stuff. I'm pretty sure quite a few Fraggles pulling duty on this.
No, sir, it was David Shaughnessy whereas Rizzo was voiced by Steve Whitmire from 1980 to 2016. Rizzo.
Ah, right, okay.
Steve Whitmire, if people aren't aware, was also the voice of Kermit for a long, long time before he was. Yeah.
And he's a puppeteer in this. He's one of the guards.
Yeah.
When I was watching the making of documentary, which had got Jim Henson talking quite a lot, I had forgotten how much his actual normal voice is basically just Kermit. And it was like it was being narrated by Kermit.
What I think is quite interesting, particularly with how the Muppets work in terms of like the lineage of control and stuff. I always think that the first real person that you see becomes like the voice that you kind of associate with. I think like people probably do the same in Doctor Who. Like their Doctor's probably the first. Most of the time, it's probably the first Doctor they saw. Like Steve Whitmire is like kind of my Kermit the Frog. When I go back and see kind of Jim Henson doing the voice, it feels weird.
Yeah.
Kurt's the only person that's going to probably understand this. There's a definite kind of when Fergie left Man U feeling with Matt Vogel, where it's like, yeah, something's not right. And it's not really fit the since Steve Whitmire was kind of sacked.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying there. So, what I will say also on this is newish news. Did anyone see the Netflix show on the Menendez brothers? Or aware of the issue of what that is?
No,
I'm aware of it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, so it's about the two brothers who were sexually assaulted by their dad, and they killed the mother and dad back in the early 80s. I think we may have been around this era. So the reason why I bring it up for, because Eric and Lyle, is that recently there's been a re-sentencing of them, so now they can be released on parole, where they weren't actually going to be allowed to be released on parole. But the Los Angeles, I think it's the Los Angeles District Attorney, George Gascon, was talking about it. His voice sounds like Kermit the Frog. He's actually talking about it, and instantly I was like, that sounds identical to Kermit the Frog. And something really serious like that, but he's talking like this, man. I'm like, oh my God, it sounds identical to Kermit the Frog. What am I going to do? So that was really bizarre.
You've also got James Murphy from LCD Sound System does sometimes sound quite a lot like Kermit the Frog. So I've seen videos where people have got Kermit puppets and mime them along to singing LCD Sound System songs, and it works fantastically.
Right, should we start the film?
Yeah.
I'm just going to mention it just as a scene breaker, because we talked about briefly about the backstory within the book about the mother going, and there's the newspaper clippings on the actual film itself. And Sarah's in the park, which is reciting this thing, so it's kind of like mother like daughter thing, and obviously to give us that indication that has that kind of like fantastical mindset that she can develop this world and she can create this world, or she can at least call this world. When she gets to the babysitting duty side of things, obviously we get introduced to the stepmother and the fact that gets to the point of, this is not fair. She says right through the first half of the movie, there's a lot of like, this is not fair. Why do I have to babysit? This is not fair. This is not fair. And that, over the course of the entire film, changes to, if you need us, at the very end. And I just love that arc of like what they're doing there with her imagination, that she's able to like enter this labyrinth world, and I'd say enter the world in whichever way you want to call that, like that, whether it's not Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz illusions, like we've mentioned before. But at the same time, it has that coming of age story to it, and it also has some of the darker aspects, but actually standing up to power as well, which is the major difference for me in this film, is that's something that I didn't really pay attention to in my previous watches up until now. I looked at it more of a critical eye, going, actually, if you put the book and the film together, even the film shows it, that coming of age story, that kind of aspect of like sort of being empowered, but understanding that it's still there, the protection, the innocence is still there. She can always go back to that nostalgic thing, but she needs to push forward, is the arc of the film. And I just think that overall, irrespective of the parts, that is a really strong part of the movie, which I never really thought about. Obviously, you get to the end and you think, oh, it's a lovely story, but it's a really powerful thing. And one thing I kept thinking to myself before we came on, which is something I just didn't fathom, It's just unfortunate we haven't got a female perspective on it, because it would have been a really interesting discussion point to talk to a female about this film.
Well, I did ask Helen, but she didn't want to do it because she doesn't want to do podcasts unless it's just reading scores on We Dig Music.
Has Elodie watched this?
Yes, lots of times. It's one of our main family films that we watch.
You know what you did with the Maid Marian stuff?
Yep.
Do you want to put an Elodie opinion right here, right now?
I can do that.
Yay!
Right. I'm here with Elodie, my 8-year-old daughter, who you may have heard before if you listen to the Maid Marian and Her Merry Men episodes. Hello, Elodie.
Hello.
After all that setting up the microphone, and then you said that way louder to distort. Well done. So we're talking about Labyrinth, because this is the Shipwrecked and Comatose Christmas special. Now, most people won't necessarily think of Labyrinth as a Christmas film.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, we've got something in our room at the moment that's quite Christmassy that's to do with Labyrinth, isn't it? What have we got on our Christmas tree?
Oh, we've got a... I don't know his name. The
worm.
The worm.
We have the
ornament.
worm that says hello
Yeah.
and invites her in for a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Meet the missus. On our Christmas tree. So that, therefore, makes Labyrinth just as much a Christmas film as Die Hard or Gremlins. Not as much as Gremlins, because that's the greatest Christmas film of all time. But
No, it's not.
what do you think the greatest Christmas film of all time is?
I don't know.
Then it's Gremlins.
No, it's not.
You've never seen Gremlins?
I've seen the trailer.
Yeah. But you are going to watch it soon at some
No, I am not.
point. Anyway, Labyrinth.
Also, this is not about Gremlins. It's about Labyrinth.
No,
so.
Gremlins is awesome, though. So, Labyrinth. Who's your favourite character altogether in Labyrinth?
Ludo.
Ludo. Why is Ludo your favourite character?
Dunno.
Really insightful, Elodie. What do you like about Ludo?
Because he's big and acts like an 8-year-old.
Is he like a big cuddly teddy bear sort of thing as well? Would you like a...
He doesn't look like one.
No, but you would absolutely, if you saw one in a shop, you would want a cuddly Ludo, wouldn't you?
Probably.
Yeah, because you want all of the cuddly toys in the world.
Yeah, not creepy ones like gremlin toys.
Gizmo's cute. Just don't
I mean,
feed
like,
him after midnight.
I mean, like gremlins who have been fed after midnight. Toys.
Yeah. They wouldn't
They're
be
creepy.
cuddly toys.
They're
be,
really creepy.
Yeah, they're all slimy and grim.
Yeah.
But anyway, Labyrinth. So what is your favourite scene in Labyrinth? What's your favourite bit?
Probably the worm scene.
You like the bit with the worm?
Yeah.
The worm's pretty cool. What's your favourite song in the film? Because there's lots of songs in it.
I don't know what it's called.
What does it go like?
Okay, I'm not singing.
Well, I think you should.
No!
Okay. Is it Dance Magic Dance?
Yes.
I thought it would be Dance Magic Dance. Is that therefore your favourite David Bowie song?
No. Because I don't know any David Bowie songs.
You definitely know some that you've heard in the car at some point. But anyway,
Yeah. I have no clue which ones are David Bowie and which ones aren't, though, so...
then you need educating. We'll go on a full course of listening to David Bowie's entire discography over the next few weeks. No more Christmas music. No more Taylor Swift. It's all going to be Bowie for the next few weeks.
No, Taylor Swift? What? No!
How many times do you think we've watched Labyrinth over the years? Over your 8 years of being on the planet?
At least 10 times.
That's probably actually only in the last 3 years, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really?
actually. Probably about 50.
Because it's one of Mummy's favourite films in the universe, isn't it? Mummy hasn't got a microphone, so there's not much point you pointing at her. What do you think? Because technically we have to connect it to Red Dwarf, and the reason that we're doing on this podcast is because Danny John Jules, who's the cat, who's the one that keeps going, fish, in the clip that I've shown you.
Fish.
So he is one of the Firey gang that throw their heads around and stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned.
Do you like that scene?
Yeah.
Yeah? Does Mummy like that scene?
No.
She's always found that scene really scary, hasn't she? Which is weird. I don't
Why
get it.
scary?
I think because they're trying to pull people's heads off and stuff.
It freaks me out.
There we go. It's Helen's first appearance on the podcast as well. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Elodie. Do you want to say bye and Merry Christmas to all the listeners?
Bye.
So, yeah, I didn't realise how quick this movie was. In my head, it was like a 2-hour movie. It's actually quite a sharp and efficient movie as well.
It went from I'm rehearsing in the park to, oh, we're going to the Goblin Kingdom, what, in 15 minutes? 20 minutes? And maybe it's because the second time I watched it at faster speed. It does help, but it made me it felt almost a bit like she was like, I wish the goblins would take you away, and she just seemed very stony faced. Where it's like, Jareth, king of the goblins, give me back my brother. She's very like, oh, it's almost like she's lost her keys a bit, and like. It's like, I wish my baby brother was taken away. Oh, shit, my baby brother's been taken away. Better go to the Goblin Kingdom. You know, it felt...
Who could have guessed this would happen?
Yeah. Oh, dear. I did like the bit with them all in the cupboard.
Yeah, it was creepier than I remembered, actually. It's quite scary with, like, the whole stuff running behind her. Almost like Child's Play.
Yeah. Less knives.
Yeah. Just with the little sort of back and forth between them, like, has she actually said it yet? Has she actually, like, legally defined sort of that we could take the kid?
Has she consented for us taking the child?
Yeah. Doesn't one of them say, it doesn't even start with I wish, and then she says it, and it does start with I wish?
Yeah.
I did like that, actually, the bickering between them at the start.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty funny.
Yeah, look, we're well, this is the thing. When it's obviously jumping right to the end, when they're all sort of together at the end, the goblins are there, sort of having fun. It's almost like, oh, they're not evil; they're just kind of following orders, but they're following them to the letter, and they're only doing it if it's completely right.
You know who else was just following orders, though?
Who's that?
Nazis.
But yeah, it does jump really quickly. To the point where I didn't remember the rehearsing the scene in the park until I watched it again for this episode. All of my memories of Labyrinth start with her wishing away the kid.
It's not the best part of the film. The best part of the film is when she's running around the labyrinth and there's loads of cool Muppets. It isn't as memorable as Hoggle or Ludo or even the bird hat that's got a good gag. You know, it's just there. It's needed to get them there.
Yeah, but the thing that kind of was missing for me is where she's trying to remember the speech, and then she has the thing of "you have no power over me," because I couldn't remember that. When she does it at the end, it's like, and well, she just pulled that out of thin air. It was sort of because I just couldn't remember. That initial bit of her learning it, it was like, oh, she starts reciting something, almost like, did I miss a bit, like in the middle where they told her the spell to release from Jareth? It was weird. Maybe that's why I don't hold it with as much nostalgia, as I can't remember the first 15 minutes.
I mean, I think, because part of me was wondering whether it was actually real and whether she was thinking about it in the head.
Yeah.
Then part of me was wondering, only just now she was talking about it, whether it might have been slightly better if, because the book or play or whatever she's doing at the start, it just seems to be the actual plot of the film that she's about to do.
She's either willed it into existence or she's imagined it completely. It's that kind of, as I say, Alice in Wonderland.
It's very Wizard of Oz, yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So, see, I would have thought whether if it was more explicit that perhaps like the book had come to life, that kind of bit where she starts saying you have no power over me would probably make more sense, because I was there going, because I think I was very similar to Carl's, like, wait, what's going on?
This is why I think the book works. Even though it's a lot darker, and it's made me think even more fascinating. It makes it even more fascinating to me in that context as a story, that I'm definitely going to read this book now, because there is that power dynamic between the Jeremy or the Jareth and the Sarah. Watching it now, I don't feel that the Bowie stuff is as overt as what it could have been to have even like not a sexual power, but just like the power over it. It didn't feel like that, but it felt like that when I was younger. When on the nostalgic side, it felt like he was this powerful Goblin King. But watching it now, it doesn't have that same feel as if there's enough on there for him to go, you have no power over me. I remember it being quite strong when I was a kid, but watching it now, I was like, I don't feel that connection.
No, it didn't feel like he had that much power over her at all, apart from having the baby.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. I think that it feels like there's something missing in terms of either the antagonism between them, because Bowie just shows up, starts waving his balls around in front of a miner, and just like kidnaps a child, starts throwing him around in the air.
His power over Hoggle was significantly more emphasised than his power over her. You're right. Yeah. And again, looking at it critically, which I've never done before, I've just sat there and gone, I fucking love Labyrinth. And yeah, I guess there is something missing there. I don't care, it's still the greatest children's film of all time.
If they incorporated that, like, say, in the book where you've got that's like stepdad character or something, which is probably like the analogue of Jareth. You kind of had that kind of thing with the stepmom at the very start. Yeah. And then that's kind of gone completely.
Well, as I say, the idea of the stepmom is that she's actually got a really good thing there, but she's not willing to accept it. She wants to be with her mother, not a stepmom. But the mother's in a compromised position in the Jareth role, that he's actually quite a powerful figure in Hollywood, per se, and has that power, exerting the power over a 15-year-old kid. That's kind of where the pushback is. It's kind of that coming of age section to it. But without that aspect, Jareth just seems like he's the Goblin King, and that's what he is. And you just get, it's more of the face acting you get from Bowie that you kind of feeling stuff. You're not really feeling it from a narrative perspective.
I mean, the Wizard of Oz thing is, as we've said, is quite strong, to the point where when the stepmom at the start says, oh, she treats me like a wicked stepmother, I almost expected that actress to turn up as someone else. Yeah. Like in the Goblin world. She doesn't, but I thought she almost would have done. I mean, it would have been a completely different dynamic if it was like the Goblin Queen and they were fighting to get Toby back from the Goblin Queen. But it wouldn't have worked, and it would have been nowhere near as sexy.
I think narrative like that would have made a lot more sense, particularly if you focused on the relationship with the stepmom, because that would probably would have made a slightly more sense.
It'd have to be Kate Bush, though, instead of David Bowie.
I was about to ask who we would use as contemporaries if it was a Goblin Queen rather than a Goblin King.
Annie Lennox.
Annie Lennox.
So I wouldn't necessarily see the Goblin Queen working, because I think the concept of the stepmothers is the opposite of what they want.
Toya Wilcox has got the same hair.
See, I think perhaps again in another world you probably would have had that. I quite like the idea that if you had David Bowie as the weird stepdad, that probably would have made a lot more context to the film.
Yeah, and if you had them that had that 15th birthday party with even not necessarily repeating the ballroom scene, but have allusions to it, and then you have the ballroom scene a lot later, it would have made more sense. Yeah, it feels like it's missing that scene to me. It feels like it's missing. You didn't need to do it in the way that they do it, because in the ballroom scene they do it where you've got all the people hiding the masks and stuff like that, and it's all about like the beauty of her, and everyone's eyes are on her. In the book, it's more like at one point when she's trying to go away, like men are trying to grab hold of her because of her beauty and stuff. So there's a little bit of like that going on in that one. But in this one, in the ballroom scene, it's very much about him looking at her as an object, really, in the way I see that. And the people behind the masks are being a bit like just the general people around that are kind of just viewing it happen. I mean, obviously the peach thing's another thing that has connotations in fertility and all that type of thing as well. So there's a lot going on in this movie that I just didn't fathom.
Did any of us watch this on like a Blu-ray or DVD?
I watched it on the ITV player.
I watched it on DVD because the ITV player kept freezing.
Are there many deleted scenes?
Not on the DVD, no. There's like some concept drawings. There's the making of documentary that I watched. I believe there were some deleted scenes. I think there's some on YouTube.
Right.
But I don't think there's many out there. I think because of how expensive it is to film stuff with all of the puppets and everything, I think they're going to use what they've got. They're not going to get rid of an entire scene. They're going to, redo it until it's right.
Yeah. I was just wondering, because, I know, like, reading about the making of it, but we only agreed to do it, like, a couple of weeks before shooting. So it sounds like they were, like, way up against it in some areas, but they've been building the puppets for, like, 18 months beforehand.
Having a quick look on the Labyrinth wiki, it says a scene from the start of the film where Sarah uses a broom to try and shoo away the goblins after they invade her room. The fact this scene is filmed is proven by the existence of a production still that shows Sarah holding a broom. The scene is restored in several pieces of the tie-in media produced to be released alongside Labyrinth, including the Marvel comic book adaptation.
I was going to say that's in the Marvel comic, definitely. I've seen the picture.
But that's the only thing it says.
There's a sequel in the comic books.
Yeah, there was a almost manga-ish type one.
Yeah.
There's quite a few things that were made for the Japanese market. There was a Nintendo game that was only ever released in Japan.
In Japanese as well.
Yeah.
Even if you could get an emulation, you couldn't really play it.
There's a random Reddit comment, which is obviously means it's a valid source of information, saying that there's a promotional material that shows a few scenes that were shot but never seen. Neil Gaiman's the only other person besides Lucas and Spielberg that has seen the original 3-hour cut of the film.
3-hour cut?
Yeah, it says that on the wiki as well. It does say that on the Labyrinth wiki.
Fuck me. I'm not sure a 3-hour cut was the right choice.
No, I mean, this is just over 90 minutes. I think it's like 95, 96 minutes. I mean, that was pretty much the norm in the 80s. Films got longer and longer through the 90s and 2000s, didn't they? And I like that. It's almost like the Latham limit for films. I quite like a 90-minute movie. Whereas I'm happy to listen to an 85-minute long song. Justice League, the Snyder Cut, I have not watched because I've not got time for that. Fuck that.
I'm not. Yeah, don't talk about the Snyder Cuts. It's just like the obsession with them is just ridiculous.
I quite liked the Schneider Cut.
Not seen it.
I didn't like any of them to begin with, so I'm not going to bother myself with another one. And everything I'd heard about it wasn't great. But anyway, Queeg shows up.
Yes.
For the dance number.
Should we talk about Queeg? Which, ironically, I think is the weakest part of the film.
I meant in the Schneider Cut, but yeah, go on.
The Firey is the bit that my wife is terrified of. She was scared of it as a kid and still really doesn't like it. I don't quite get why. I don't think it's that scary. I think it's pretty cool. I love the character design.
I think there's something fundamentally scary about decapitation and surviving it. I'm with Helen on this. I found the Fireys really scary as a kid, whereas now I find it funny. But yeah, as a kid, it scared the shit out of me.
I don't know if it's just whatever version of this I watched, but the green screen is really apparent.
Okay, it's not green screen, it's black screen.
Is it black screen?
Yeah, so I'm wondering if that might be why. It's a black velvet backdrop, and then all of the puppeteers were like wearing head to toe black velvet, including masks over their face. And that there's bits in the making of showing them having to like really meticulously vacuum every single inch of it constantly, because as soon as it gets a bit of fluff on there, it's really, really obvious. Green screen, I don't think they used back then. Didn't it tend to be blue screen?
Blue was, because Red Dwarf was blue for a long time.
No, Red Dwarf was red.
Well, yeah.
Was it used that early? Because this was 86. I can remember things from 87, 88 onwards, but I don't know if there was that much blue screen being used that early. So that might be why it was a black one that they used.
Blue screen was first used in 1940.
Right, okay, fair enough.
Did you know that, Kurt, or did you Google it?
No, I Googled it.
No.
1930s, blue screens were created by production teams at the RKO Radio Pictures in the late 1930s and was first made way onto film with special effects of Genie flying out of a bottle in 1940, The Thief of Banks.
I wonder if it was perhaps that it's harder to hide the puppeteers if they were wearing all blue in front of a blue screen then, and that's why they went with black in front of a black screen.
So they didn't use green screen and green outfit actors in Child's Play films until the final two that were released in the 2010s. So maybe there's something there.
No, they had a real possessed doll.
Fine.
Well, just because I know that you can chroma key any colour. It doesn't have to be green or blue. You can chroma key in pink, black, anything. But I think it's green. It was blue and green because that was the easiest ones to do in terms of clothes, basically.
It's primary colour, isn't it? Yeah.
Actually, that's a really good point because black is in nearly everything.
Yeah.
Because you've got the shadows of everything. So perhaps that's why it does look really sort of janky.
Yeah. It looked really janky on... And I don't remember it, obviously... The quality's gone up over the years from like the video version, because I remember being a bit scared of it when I'd seen it as a kid. This bit, I think probably because of the chasing or them wanting to pull her head off. But watching it now and the accents that they're doing, which are just kind of everybody's doing a very weird accent in points. Yeah, it wasn't scary to me at all.
I really love how they did the puppets, though. Each one has got 3 people controlling it. There's one guy controlling the body, somebody else controlling the arms, and then someone else controlling the head. There's a load of footage of them like rehearsing because they've got to move completely together.
Yeah.
And it's really impressive how they did it. This is the thing. Back then, it probably looked a lot more impressive than it does now. It's like the owl in the opening sequence.
Oh, it looks awful.
It really does. I sent you guys a message on our group chat earlier because I was looking at the facts on IMDb, and one of the facts is, here we go. Did you know the owl in the title sequence is computer generated?
No. What?
And it's the first one on film. That's what it's trying to get at.
That's actually an important thing. That this is, while it looks crap now, it was genuinely pioneering to have a CGI owl. You'd never had a CGI animal before.
This is it. It looks ridiculous now, but if you look at computer games that we were playing at the time, 1986, you've got stuff like, it was Alex Kidd in Miracle World, Castlevania, and Outrun. That's the level of graphics.
Oh, yes.
Bloody love Outrun.
I used to love Castlevania.
I have got the Alex Kidd remaster.
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder how much different this is going to be. It's not. It's just it's a skin over the top of the original.
I wish you could change it back to the original graphics, and they've updated the music a bit as well. It's still the same tune, but it's not quite the sounds.
Alex Kidd was a Sega one where he had a massive fist the same size as his head.
It was
It was built into the Master System.
built into the Master System 2, definitely. Was it in the first one as well?
2, yeah. No, it was just the Master System 2. Because I had the Master System 2 was the first one I got, the first console I got.
By the way, if any of you are PC gamers and have Prime, go and have a look at the Prime gaming at the moment, because the free stuff is ridiculously good right now.
I didn't even know there was Prime gaming.
If you got Prime, you get like about 8 games a month.
And if your phone's good enough to run it, you can get Immortality, which is fucking great. Matt did a episode of Ask Us About Loom about it that I've not listened to yet because I've not finished the game.
Yeah, because of Prime, I've got all of the Monkey Islands. I had some of them anyway. But I've got all of the Monkey Islands, all of the Wallace and Gromit point and clicks, Sam and Max, Loom.
Has anybody asked you about it?
No, they haven't. What's the other one? Dark Side Detective. Those two. There's loads of stuff. And at the moment on there's like one of the Tomb Raider reboot games, BioShock remastered. There's loads and loads of stuff, and a lot of it's still available, like through till December.
So anyway, Queeg shows up.
Literally. And Danny John Jules.
Twice.
And Danny John Jules. Yeah, which is the whole reason why we're doing this podcast. He actually posted David Bowie singing this song.
Yes.
When David Bowie died.
I'm surprised he didn't get in trouble for that. Because he just uploaded this previously unreleased Bowie track.
Yeah, well, because in the film it was called Chilly Down, wasn't it? But it was originally called Wild Things. Yeah. And I guess it does make sense that Bowie didn't sing it because the character isn't there. Yeah. But it bothers me. It is the weakest song that Bowie wrote, in my opinion, for this.
They fobbed it off onto those guys.
Yeah, maybe. But, you know, As the World Falls Down and Magic Dance are fucking masterpieces. I won't have anyone say anything else.
Credits one, I think, is very strong. I can't remember what it's called now.
Also true. Underground.
It is interesting, because that's one of the questions I was going to ask, actually, because the song, it's not exactly full of songs, is it? It's literally like 5 tunes.
4 Bowie and one written by Bowie, which was sung by Danny John Jules and co. But the rest of the soundtrack's great too, but that wasn't written by Bowie.
Have they ever attempted a musical?
There has been rumours that they did do, yes.
Now, here's the thing. I did want to talk about a potential musical adaptation, because one of my biggest regrets is that I never went to see Lazarus. And apparently, Michael C. Hall was an absolute fucking revelation as David Bowie in Lazarus. And if they're going to do Labyrinth, cast Michael C. Hall. It makes sense, right?
As in Dexter, Michael C. Hall.
Yeah, he played Bowie in Lazarus on the West End.
So just on the, the decent, well-resourced Reddit, there was, apparently there was and I did hear that there was going to potentially be a musical, but it was back in 2020 they were thinking about doing it as a musical. But obviously COVID put a kibosh on that. But yeah, so there was an idea to do that. And I think someone had been asked about potentially a prequel or a sequel or the musical. I might be getting my stories mixed up, so I'll put them all into one.
Would that have been after the Dark Crystal thing? The Netflix one?
Oh, the telly show that I didn't like. I was disappointed with.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but whoever was involved in it, I can't remember who it is now, said that they were still considering writing the story for it. It was the guy who did Doctor Strange.
Right.
Oh, Scott Derrickson.
Yeah, was looking at potentially doing a Labyrinth movie. I think that's what it was. And it's still on the cards, apparently.
I'll be honest, a lot of 80s remakes haven't been great.
No.
You know, Nightmare on Elm Street, Child's Play, neither of those were any good. And that's because they had iconic actors playing iconic characters. Even Mark Hamill couldn't possibly do as good a job as Brad Dourif. And that other guy I've not fucking heard of was never going to do Robert Englund justice. So how in the world are they going to find David Bowie a replacement?
Yeah.
They could get the guy from Flight of the Conchords.
Yes.
David Bowie.
And he can sing.
1980s, David Bowie.
I hate that. I find that funny because I fucking love Bowie. He is, I don't believe in God, but if I did, it would be David Bowie.
The thing is, if they cast anybody now who was already an established artist, regardless, it would be seen as stunt casting.
Yeah.
True.
Like, we've got Adam Lambert. And it's like, oh, stunt casting,
Jason Donovan.
Oh, fuck off.
Wasn't this like stunt casting anyway? Like, oh, we've got David Bowie.
I think so. That's probably fair.
Yeah.
I think by this time, though, stunt casting wasn't as regular as it is now. Like, now, I think if they did do it, they'd have a Goblin Queen. And they'd have a female vocalist.
That's just woke.
Oh, don't.
Lady Gaga as the Goblin Queen.
That would work.
I thought somebody like a Demi Lovato, that sort of Disney trained, who can, do a musical standing on their head.
Get Hannah Montana in.
She's not real, Mark.
I've just forgotten who the other world.
Miley Cyrus.
Thank you.
Miley Cyrus.
She'd have the sass to do it.
But I think when you actually look at the list we mentioned previously, Michael Jackson would have been a stunt cast. Mick Jagger would have been a stunt cast. Sting would have been a terrible, terrible mistake.
Bowie's almost subtle.
Yeah, the thing with this film is that we're actively looking for an aging rock star. That was kind of like the idea of the actual Goblin King themselves. So it was casting because that's the kind of cast member they were after. It's not like going, we're going to have such and such. Oh, let's just throw David Bowie in. The actual look and feel of it was going to be, we want aging rock star.
So for the remake, you could either have, I don't know, Paul Heaton or Liam Gallagher.
Paul Heaton all the way.
Paul Heaton. Fuck's sake.
Guy Garvey from Elbow.
Yeah.
I was just about to say Guy Garvey.
Well, I mean, also with Bowie, he had been acting by this point. He must have done The Hunger by this point.
Oh, yeah, that was basically his last major role.
Yeah.
He's sort of killed his acting career.
He played Tesla.
That was a long time after.
I did play Tesla, yeah. It's a great movie, that. Prestige. Wonderful movie.
Fire Walk With Me as well.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
Who's that over there?
Talking about him being an ageing rock star at this point, though, Kurt. He was 39.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Sorry, as someone who is 39 years old, I agree with that. I'm aging.
You're not that old, though, are you? Because you came out of test tubes, so you literally came out in 2009.
Matt, you go to so many gigs, I pondered whether you actually go home.
He's actually got duplicates of himself. That's
You
what
just
it is.
leave a gig, get on a bus to the next gig.
I'm actually currently at the O2 Institute in Birmingham at the exact same moment. It's just I got really good noise suppression on this microphone.
What's that Robert Pattinson movie? It's just coming out now. It's version number 60 or something like that. It's called, or number 18 or something. That's what it is. It's just multiple.
Matt, are you at a Labyrinth gig? Because I can see him behind you.
Yes.
For fuck's sake.
It's like his ears identical to what Doug Naylor wants, isn't it? Just like multiples of people. He just loves to do that. Just loves to split people up. It's great. So, have we finished with the Red Dwarf illusions then? Do we move on?
It was a tenuous link. We just wanted to talk about fucking Labyrinth and make Matt watch Labyrinth. And we've managed to do that. And we've talked for over an hour and a half and we're nowhere near done.
Work here is not done.
So, we haven't even talked about Dance Magic Dance yet. And we're going to talk about Dance Magic Dance now, because what was really funny when I watched it before, because I hadn't watched it since 2016, I hadn't realised that every time I hear the song or I play the song, I do the move where he's swings from back to front, like that. You remind me of the beat. So I always do that little shuffle with his shoulders.
It's a bit Crichton, that shuffle, isn't it?
Do you know what the actual direction given to all of the goblin performers was?
No.
Dance?
Be goblins.
Brilliant.
Apart from the obvious bits where they're on wires and stuff and jumping up in the air, they were just told to be goblins in that scene, and they just filmed it. And they are goblins. It works perfectly.
Didn't Bowie say he had quite a few issues to start with working with the puppets, because when you talk to them, the mouth opens, but the voice comes from somewhere behind you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see how that would be really kind of confusing.
So I can imagine it's easier for him to do these scenes because, they're not talking. I think probably now they would have a speaker in there or something for him to... So it looks like it sounds like he's coming from where he's looking.
Potentially, yeah. There's 48 puppets in this scene.
Yeah.
Which is bonkers.
Yes.
Absolutely bonkers.
Apparently the scene, when all of the puppets weren't there, just looked like Swiss cheese because there just holes all over the place for the puppets to go through.
Makes sense.
It is pretty much the song that everyone knows from this film. I know there is an argument for the other two, but this one is the most iconic one, I think.
100%.
So, Matt, your opinions on Dance Magic Dance and potentially also the baby throwing.
I can remember the baby throwing. I can't remember the song for Love Nor Money. I cannot remember any of the songs from this film.
Dance Magic Dance Magic Dance. Nope.
It was the 80s. You could throw a baby before them blasted unions got involved.
Well, let's say you're throwing a baby, you're throwing an obvious doll. He's obviously throwing double. I say I can't remember the song. I don't know. There's some very uncanny valley about it, to the point where it's 40 odd minutes into the film, and then suddenly it remembers it's supposed to be a musical. I don't know. There's just something about it. It just felt very uneven in terms of it being a musical, to the point where it just felt out of place, and it's this is an excuse for David Bowie just to start singing.
So
I think as well, when it was first written, the Terry Jones version, there weren't songs.
Yeah.
And then he was told to go away and write bits where they could drop songs in.
I don't know, there's just something about it that feels artificial in terms of shoehorning in songs just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just, again, uncanny valley of just Let's say just have a random David Bowie song that I'm still not sure is actually... He's not just a song that he wrote that they're just forced in because it's got the word baby in it.
The baby noises are all David Bowie. They got when he went into the studio to record it, he got one of his backing singers brought their baby in to do it, and this baby was babbling along totally all over the place until they put a microphone in front of it. Every time the microphone was there, it was completely silent. So he had to make all the sort of baby gurgling noises himself.
I can't see Sting singing Dance Magic Dance.
No.
Not with giving it... I can't see Sting wearing that outfit, to be fair. Or maybe 80s Sting. He did wear the bell... Yeah.
It's not a million miles away from what he was wearing in June.
Yeah. Or the bellboy outfit in Quadrophenia.
Yeah. We have actually missed two of the best characters in the film because they're just before Dance Magic Dance.
Hoggle.
No, but as always, Colin, I don't do things in order.
I know. Well, it's like you started doing them in order.
And I'm talking about general scenes, and then we'll be back. But we will talk about all the characters, don't worry. We're talking about scenes at the moment. We'll go into more microscopic later.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I do enjoy Dance Magic Dance, and I've been singing it for a bit today, knowing that I was going to watch the film again today. But it is the only song that really sticks out for me, even though when I said, like, some of the other songs really strong, but I think it's just because it's the catchiest one.
I think As the World Falls Down is as strong, but it isn't as iconic.
That's the one that I have got stuck in my head at the moment the most, mainly because the fretless bass part on it is amazing. That really nice sort of slidey fretless bass line on it. It's a guy called Will Lee.
Have we been invaded by We Dig Music?
Well, if we're talking about music, I've got to do this kind of thing. Yeah, Will Lee is a session bassist that's played with fucking everyone. Like Bee Gees, Mariah Carey, Cher, Sheena Easton, Al Green, Shaka Khan, Kool and the Gang.
Jason Donovan?
No, not as far as I'm aware.
Well, he's done bugger all then.
That particular scene, it fits in with like this sort of 80s new romantic kind of vibe as well with the ball.
Yeah, I wouldn't... it didn't twig to me that was happening about the same time.
Almost could have been a contemporary pop video.
You could see Boy George doing it.
See, for me as well, I mean, Dance Magic Dance for me is the strongest, but I love the down, 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 down. For you. It's just really kind of like the rock element of it, the progression of it. It's like really, really nice.
It's really sinister.
Yeah. And I think because it's so intertwined with the visual element, with the kind of obviously the optical illusion element of it, is just, that for me is really, really memorable. Whereas Dance Magic Dance, I think it's a bit of a pop song. You've got the slow ballad stuff for that, and then you've got the rock progression like stuff. I just think, to Matt's point, I actually think that's really good. Because you've got a full range of musical numbers there.
See, I'm not a big Bowie guy at all. There's like 3 Bowie songs that I have on a playlist.
Which ones?
Yeah, I was about to say Colin might get angry for this. Dancing in the Street.
Thursday's Child.
Hello, Space Boy.
Good. Yeah, I like that one.
That's a good choice.
The reason that I love that is because he sang it when he won his Brit Lifetime Achievement Award. And I remember watching that as a kid and it stuck with me. And the 9 Inch Nails duet of I'm Afraid of Americans.
Oh, yes.
That's one of my favourites. One of my absolute favourite Bowie songs.
The video's great as well.
Earthling is so underrated.
I remember hearing Little Wonder and not thinking much of it, and then when I heard I'm Afraid of Americans. But if you go back to what's like regarded as, the classic stuff, which tends to be, like Gene Genie and Ziggy Stardust, I've just never go back to that stuff.
I do a lot.
Dead Man Walking off Earthling is worth a listen if you like those other ones.
Yeah. I tell you what, though, there's a video of Bowie, I think it's his 50th birthday gig, and it's him doing, I think it's Hello Space Boy, and it's him with his live band and the Foo Fighters.
Right.
All at the same time. And it's fucking brilliant.
I just think David Bowie is the greatest musical artist of all time, and I'm so happy that I got to see him live at Glastonbury 2000. It's genuinely one of my favourite gigs.
I was supposed to be there.
Well, I was, and it was ace, mate.
I was supposed to be there. Well, no, I wasn't supposed to be there. I had an opportunity to be there. I went to college, and a load of my mates were like, we're going to get a van down to Glastonbury. We haven't got tickets. We're just going to get down there, and we're going to get in. And I was like, fuck off. There's no way you're going to get in. So I didn't go with them, and they all bloody got in, and I could have gone with them.
Well, I bought a ticket, and I saw Bowie, and I cried.
Nine Inch Nails played the same festival as well. Did you see Nine Inch Nails there?
I didn't see Nine Inch Nails. No, I have seen them elsewhere, but I didn't see them at that one.
Ian, my co-host on all of my other podcasts, was there. Git.
But genuinely, I mean, I think every era of Bowie has something truly, truly special.
Apart from Tin Machine.
That doesn't count. His final two albums are masterworks of a truly, truly complete musician who was irreplaceable.
Yeah.
I remember hearing it's Black Star, isn't it?
Black
the last
Star
one?
is so good.
Black Star.
Yeah, I remember hearing a couple of songs,
it's a great
probably the ones that the videos came out for. So I heard about the videos, and I watched them. I was like, oh, that is a man that knows he's dying.
Yeah.
And it's a man, like, trust David Bowie to make dying into an art form.
It was only Bowie and I think it was Tony Visconti that were the only people involved in the record that knew that he was dying.
Yeah.
He managed to keep it a secret from all of the other musicians and everybody else involved as well.
Yeah, and the Musos on that album, that Black Star album, with the jazz band and stuff, they're just an amazing band.
It was that weird phase of time where it was like him, Wogan, and somebody else over the course of like a week.
Leonard Cohen.
Lemmy.
Oh, Lemmy. Yeah, 2016 was a year where everybody just...
Shit year.
Yeah.
Well, that Lemmy was Christmas Eve 2015, so it was about a week or so before Bowie.
Colin might have heard this one, but TerraVision's new album came out, and there is a song called The Night That Lemmy Died.
Yeah.
And it's the most slightly odd Christmas song you've ever heard. It starts with like the goose is in the oven, it's all getting fat, and then it goes on to talk about being told that the Lemmy's passed away. Yeah.
So, Matt, going back to the musical stuff, I know obviously you said it's a bit Uncanny Valley. The breadth of the music, like I was saying, nothing? No?
I can't remember anything to do. I think Carl could recall more of Series 11 of Red Dwarf than I can about any of the music in
I
Labyrinth.
can't remember a thing about Series 11. Yeah.
And I don't know, it just didn't jump out to me for some reason.
All right, well, let's talk about the scenes themselves then. So the ballroom scene, and then we'll talk about the end scene, and then we can delve into some of the characters like the Ludos and the Aloes and the Moss and the Hands and the Knockers and all of those people. So what do we make to the ballroom scene? I know I've talked about it a little bit with the book and the very different kind of style to it, even though it is still kind of similar. What did you make to the ballroom scene, Matt, when you first saw it?
Again, I didn't understand what was going on. I was starting to lose a bit grasp of what was going on at some points, to the point where I think there are certain parts of the film I started to feel like there was just trying to artificially start padding it out. And, like, for example, the memory loss stuff. And I don't know, I either I've missed the point of the ballroom scene, I just did not get it. I didn't understand the reason why it's there.
Okay, so the ballroom scene is when she's had the magic peach and has fallen asleep. The whole idea is that this is supposed to be just tempting her to stay there and to forget about her quest to get her brother. So the whole idea is that it's she just wants to stay at this ball forever. But then she remembers while she's in there that, actually, hold on, she does need to save her brother, so she throws a chair.
And on the flip side of that is like the seduction of like the coming of the kind of like the coming of age, that she's drawn to the Goblin King as someone that's seducing her, and she wants to like kind of test that in relation to like sort of her coming of age, but then realizes there's actually a mission that she's currently on. She needs to break away from that, go back to kind of that innocence, because she needs to get the child back. It's that push and pull. It's like that second act thing of like, you know, taking her away from her quest, and it's like a vision element of that to say, this is what I'm going to seduce you with, but ultimately that fails, and that's why after this part of the movie, the Goblin King becomes a lot more apathetic right through the rest of the show, right to those bits in the optical illusion bits where he's looking just kind of generally pissed off because he's wanting her to come to his side and it's not happening. So this is the final kind of roll of the dice for him to kind of seduce her into that side.
Yeah, because he describes it as, I'm exhausted trying to meet your standards, which is a very odd thing for a villain to say to the heroine of like, I'm trying to appease you.
It works in relation to that she's imagined or made this real, made the actual Labyrinth a real thing, isn't it? Because she's imagined him as the Goblin King, so he's now trying to live up to that standard that she has put into her own head, that she's seduced by this idea that, as I say in the book, would be that this stepfather has shown an interest in her from a sexual perspective, and it's her sexual awakening, so there's that element to it. And I think that's kind of what that the Bowie's representing, or the Goblin King's representing that. It's representing, I can't live up to what you're expecting me because you're imagining me in that way.
So I reckon we need to get onto the stairs bit next then, don't we?
We do.
So the main problem with having a baby in this environment with all of these Escher staircases going all over the place, it's going to be an absolute fucking bastard to fit all the stair gates that we're going to need.
Fucking hell. So I'm a massive fan of Escher, and this scene is just fucking gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
It is beautiful, but for me the most impressive bits are the Bowie walking round things bits, where he like goes over the edge. Well, he comes round the edge of a platform.
Have you seen how they did that?
No.
It's practical.
I thought it might be, but I've not seen how they did it.
He's basically hung upside down on this. He's got like this harness that his legs are sort of strapped into like this frame, and that sort of whips him round onto the top. From looking at it on the making of documentary, it's only like up to maybe his thighs. I'm surprised it didn't break his back, the speed that it moves.
Well,
yeah.
And he did his own stunts. That wasn't someone else.
So did Jennifer Connelly, and she does a lot. There's a lot of things like her falling down and you know, the bits where like they're on the wall above the Bog of Eternal Stench and the bricks fall away.
Isn't there a bit where she lands really hard on her knees as well, if I remember rightly?
Yes.
Yeah.
When she falls into, what's it called? The oubliette.
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 Yes, this is the film that made lots of people know what that word meant.
There's an X-File episode called Oubliette.
But by the time I watched it, I already knew what it meant because of this film. But like, you go to Warwick Castle and there's an oubliette, and you're like, there's an oubliette. I know that because Labyrinth.
I wonder if there were any Jareths born in 1987 after this came out.
How common a name is Jareth?
Fuck's sake, Colin.
I think was it Toby Stroud, the baby, the child actor, looked like he was having the time of his life wandering around the doorways and stuff. Like, that must have been painted in. That must have took so long to do. Like, shoot a real bit and then paint the rest in around. Or maybe it was forced perspective, but it's fascinating sort of how it looks.
It's a great ending of a film. It's like, for me, it is up there with some of the best endings of films. Because, as you say, it's that optical illusion thing. And just how off-kilter it is, and the fact that, you know, the Goblin King's kind of like got to that point where is everything I've done for you. Why aren't you being seduced by me? And then for her to have that, you know, you have no power over me realization. It's a wonderful moment. I'd say I would like to have that to have hit more. I think it hit more as a kid, but the idea of this like sort of wonderful, just visual piece of storytelling is great.
Come on, love, I'm David Bowie. You know, that kind of.
The making of this scene is so fascinating, though. with all the different angles and stuff. There was a bit where they'd got a guy dressed up to look like Bowie from the back, and he's lying sideways on like a trolley, and they pull him sort of across the shot so quickly. They've got a camera on its side, and then Bowie walks from an arch in the background, so it's like he's sideways, whereas another version of him's just sort of fallen out of the way. And it works so perfectly when you actually watch it.
Just from like the filmmaker standpoint, I always imagine the table with the people who have to plan that, and just a pile of spent cigarettes, just 3 in the morning, like just like how are we gonna do this? And it's like 2 Bowies, yeah, that's how we'll do it. 2 Bowies.
Have you anything, Mark, on the scene?
I just fucking love it. I think a lot of the reason why I wanted to do this is just I fucking love this film. There's so much cool shit in it. And I said I'd tried to look at it more critically, and I did. But I can't quite do it as well as I might for something else. Just everything about this film makes me smile. I tried to make like good notes on this and actually make sense, but I've put tally ho bop lol for that bit where Didymus gets knocked off his steed, and I couldn't do it. It's just a great film, and this is so surreal, so sublime, and so well done. And the inspiration, the Relativity by MC Escher, I've got on the wall over there because I fucking love that piece of art. It's just for me, this film. I struggle to say anything other than I fucking love this.
And you've got Matt going, don't know what you're talking about. What's the crack? Bit shit, innit? Maybe not shit. I think that's putting words into your mouth, Matt. But I think you need to be there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, and I fully recognise that.
Yeah.
So I think the scene looks amazing, and the practical effects are really good and stuff. I think it's just the stuff around it. I think I had issues with, like, the overall kind of like construction of the plot, and the fact that I really did not like the character Sarah.
Well, that does kind of have a problem.
Yeah, she starts as a little spoilt brat, you're right, but I think the whole part is a redemption arc for a bratty little girl.
She's a petulant teenager, but interestingly, as soon as she gets into the labyrinth, she starts getting more confident and optimistic about things. Whereas when she's in the real world at the start, she's going on about how, everything's unfair. And then when she gets into the, she's like, oh, I can do this. And admittedly, every time somebody in the film says it'll be a piece of cake, something bad happens, like, immediately afterwards. It's like a little motive.
I think a small but a really important scene is between the two we've just discussed, which is the junkyard scene. Because it comes from the ballroom that she smashes out of. She meets the junkyard woman, and she ends up back into a room, which is her mindset going, I want to go back to comfort. I want to be where I know I'm safe. Because she's just left a place that's quite scary, like from that perspective. And that moment where it's kind of like the turning point for her to kind of go, actually, things aren't fair, but I need to grow. And from there to that point, to the point where she's just about to go into the staircases, and she turns around to the friends that she's developed over the way, as I say, very Wizard of Oz, but has gone, I need to do this on my own now. I need to go. I need to take that extra step. I need to do this by myself. And then the way that they say, should you need us, is the element of like, you can always come back to your safety point, but you need to step outside your comfort zone and grow as a person. And I think that's the whole thing of her being bratty at the beginning to that realisation to move on.
I think what I really liked about the Junk Lady on this particular watch was I'd never realised quite how tragic the character is for just a tiny little cameo, essentially. But it's a hoarder. It's a real kind of personal problem that, you've watched all those horrible Channel 4 documentaries about hoarders now. And she's a very, very sad character that kind of has a mental health problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Like, sort of their story.
But I'd never thought of that until this watch, where I've just talked about, I really loved it. But that was the moment I was like, shit, there's some stuff in here I haven't spotted.
I hadn't noticed that there's more than one of that type of character.
Yeah, they're in the background, aren't they?
Because it feels like that sort of junkyard stretches like far and wide. So it almost feels like it's a different, like, underneath the labyrinth level.
Yeah.
Because she climbs up to get out of it.
From a more visual perspective, those people that are stuck in that, they're not willing to move on, are they? Because they're hoarding, but they're hoarding stuff that's actually more akin to, like, stuff they know. So they're not willing to go beyond that.
It's emotional baggage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, it was just a tiny little scene with a funny little woman. Whereas now, it's much, much darker than I ever really realised.
And much more important.
I think I had it in my head as a kid that when she goes into the bedroom, that was in the thing on her back. Like the bag on her back.
Right, okay.
Or it was in the back of, like, another person. And she was carrying her around, and then she comes in. But, yeah, she's being smothered with it, isn't she? Because she sat there and, like, the first thing is to give her Lancelot, the teddy bear, and then she's just piling stuff on her. And then she just goes, it's all junk. And even the woman who's giving it to her, even though it's not her stuff, like, emotionally, sort of, in terms of, she goes, it's not all junk, it's this, that, and the other. And she goes, no, it's all junk, it's all... And that's the sort of, like, the casting off of things, which culminates with her giving Lancelot to Toby.
Let's talk about characters we meet along the way during this film as well, because when we get to the beginning of the labyrinth, which is one of my favourite scenes, actually, when I remember it as a kid, when you saw the false wall, where it's like, oh, it's just there, you just can't see it, you know, it's like, and then she walks left, and then turns around and goes, wait, don't go that way. If she'd have gone that way, they'd gone straight to the castle. Which is a great line. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, so the characters along the way that we meet, they're all, like, intriguing characters. I mean, that worm is definitely a case in point.
I think the most underrated character in Labyrinth is the little guy that keeps turning the paving stones round, who has the most amazing line in the entire film. Your mother was a fragging aardvark!
I thought for the longest time that it was a monkey, but I don't think it was. Was it a monkey?
It's a little goblin-y type thing.
That's got to be a line from the Terry Jones version of the script that's kept in.
Yeah.
I think pretty much any of the dialogue like that is pretty much very Python-esque Terry Jones, and those are the bits that I quite like.
Yeah.
That was the other thing about the woman coming of age thing, that she uses lipstick, because lipstick's used quite a lot in the film as well.
True.
So the use of that is, like, you know, coming from a female perspective of, like, oh, hang on, okay, you know, she's only 15 in this film, so the fact that they're making use of the lipstick as a kind of a telling point is interesting. What about other, like, sort of side characters before we get to the big ones? Like, obviously you've got Hello, you've got the Oz character with the hat as well in the middle of the movie after the helping hands.
The hat steals the scene, and it's wonderful in it.
He was supposed to be a character in one of the initial scripts. He was going to be turning up multiple times to give advice throughout the film, but they ended up just having him in that scene. What I really like just after that scene is when you're about to meet Ludo. The goblins that are sort of torturing him, what they're using as weapons, it's like a stick with what looks like a fetus type goblin with really sharp teeth just biting him. And the design of that it's horrible but really cool. But I also love that scene where as Sarah's throwing rocks at the goblins, their helmets are just spinning round and round and round as they're getting hit, which is really satisfying.
I had the subtitles on when I was watching it for the second time.
Yeah.
And it's like Matt says, you hear more of the little sort of Terry Jones-isms with the odd sort of lines, especially if there's, like, a crowd of puppets. Like those guys who are torturing Ludo, as they run away, where they've all basically hit each other with the bitey sticks.
Yeah.
One of them says, "Oh, it bit my sushi." I was like, well, that must be a misprint. And then I went back, I was like, no, it definitely said bit my sushi.
And the other thing as well, for me, which on my watch, I absolutely got the door guards and the knockers completely mixed up. I didn't remember the door guards. I always thought the knockers were the ones that did have to do the whole, if this person lies and that person tells the truth. For some reason, I just got that completely and utterly wrong.
But that's fascinating, isn't it? Because the door knockers are more memorable as an image, and where she pulls the ring out and puts it back in, that is much, much more memorable than the kind of playing card guys from Alice in Wonderland. But the riddle from the guards is much more memorable than anything that the door knockers say.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably why you've got that mixed up, because I did exactly the fucking same.
I remember her taking, from watching it like the first time around as a kid, I remember her taking the ring out of one of them's mouth and him saying, no, you can't put it back in. I also had a strange memory of her taking the other one out of his ears.
I did. That's not a Mandela effect, surely.
Possibly, but yeah. So he could hear again.
So Labyrinth's not where that one person telling the truth and one person lies.
I think it's an old riddle.
That's old in the film.
Yeah.
It's an old riddle, but I don't think it was as well known pre-Labyrinth as it is now. I don't think.
Is that like the 3-gallon and the 5-gallon jug in Die Hard with a Vengeance?
Die Hard, Vengeance, yeah.
I still don't get that, and I've seen that film a lot.
I have worked it out.
It's easy to work out once you
You've not got a bomb.
get it yet. So.
No, I think so. And the helping hands themselves was a feat to actually get done. But again, that kind of like just there is illusions of like sort of again going back to that sexual thing of like sort of so many hands like almost like down the rabbit hole a little bit. But at the same time, you've got the practical effects of that. I think there was like 75 people that actually they used in that, and obviously the types of gloves that they're using, and she was suspended and stuff like that. And it is that's a memorable scene for me as well. It's something that I do recall quite well.
It scared me a lot as a kid. Really scared me a lot as a kid. And again, watching it now, I just admire it because of how incredibly innovative and unusual and intricate it is. There's a lot of intricacy in this film that when you're analysing it, you're like, holy shit, they were really, really ambitious on this.
If they were to do it now, they'd probably say, bugger it and blow like another couple of million to CG it all, and it would look shit.
Yeah.
You're probably right.
It takes somebody who... I'm trying to think of something that's used practical effects recently.
Nolan doesn't use hardly any CG at all.
But something like, if you got somebody in, like, who was like, no, we're going to do it practical, but we're going to make it look good and practical, I think you'd have a phenomenal film on your hands, but they won't. I mean, if they did an animated one, that'd be interesting. If they got, like, the people who've been making, like, the Castlevania series or something like that, because they look fantastic. And they've always got a good voice cast. So an animated Labyrinth I'd be interested in watching.
I just don't think I want a remake without David Bowie. But maybe with Michael C. Hall.
What about a Big Finish one?
Very good.
Is there any other like smaller characters before we get to kind of like Didymus and Ludo and obviously Hoggle, which will be a big one to talk about?
Humongous was cool, but I don't have anything to say other than he was cool.
Yeah, Humongous is... The design of it's so good. Even though you get to see it there in front of the characters, so you see it in scale with how big it is, I didn't realise exactly how big it was until in the making of, there's a little bit of footage of it being brought out of one of the studio hangars, and it's like on a forklift truck to take it out, and it's fucking enormous.
I think the other thing I really liked was the cleaners.
Yeah.
Because the illusion, when the illusion is broken of what the cleaners are, just 3 wimpy little goblins turning a handle. That is so good. The first time you see that, you kind of like see the menace. Just click your fingers and the menace is gone, because it's 3 idiots who are just turning a handle.
Yeah. And you can imagine that being a Red Dwarf joke, actually.
Yeah.
You can imagine that being like a kind of Red Dwarf thing. You can imagine Hoagie being on one of them.
True.
That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? That'd be good. Let's go Ludo first, because you've talked about it a couple of times where we've got the rocks, the first inkling that something's not quite right are these stones coming towards her, so she can throw them, and then his power over rocks, which always, I've got never-ending story in my head whenever I see that. You know, that kind of always comes back to me for some reason, because obviously never-ending story being around at the same time as well.
He looks like Michael Rooker. That's all I could see. The second time I watched it, I was like, that's Michael Rooker.
For me, Ludo, I think, because in a weird way, when you strip this back, it's basically a D&D game. Set number of challenges to get through until you get to the final baddie. It's a D&D plot. And if it is a D&D plot, this is the overpowered character.
Yeah. That's who I'd want to play as. He's amazing.
The thing is, though, he's big, but he's scared of stuff, and he never really gets physical.
It's a gentle giant, isn't he? He's kind of the scarecrow.
He's a ginger furry dude, so that's why I like him.
Yeah.
I'm a ginger furry dude.
He's a lot taller than you, though.
He is a lot taller than me. Or perhaps he's standing closer to the camera.
He does give my favourite visual gag in the film, which is when they're in the Goblin City and they run into a house for shelter. It's like, how is Ludo going to get in? And he just pulls the side off the house.
It's great.
And shuts it behind him.
And then climbs up the chimney.
He does it so casually as well. It's very much like when we've been watching Maid Marian.
Yeah.
Something that rabies would do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has a great scene with Didymus,
Yeah.
the fight scene, when they said, and Didymus goes, well, I've met my match. It's like, those two work well together. And obviously, the giant and David and Goliath kind of thing there, which is good. And if we go to him, the fact that it's like, you must seek permission. It's like, well, do I have your permission then? Well, yes.
That kind of ties in, though, with the goblins being babies, is that none of them would have figured that they just have to ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you get the feeling that there's a lot of things that are happening for the first time in the Goblin City. Like, no one's asked Didymus before, and, oh God, what's his steed called?
Ambrosius.
Ambrosius.
Do you know why?
Why?
So Ambrosius is obviously... The dog is the same as Sarah's dog, Merlin.
Right.
Merlin's other name in the myths was Ambrosius.
Ambrosius.
Oh, okay.
All right.
And the way that Ambrosius is so scared.
That bit in the battle where Ambrosius is just running off, and then Didymus goes, "I'll never feed you again," and he just immediately turns around and goes back.
Oh, it's so good.
I mean, that'd have worked on me in battle.
Yep.
We're never eating again. Right, let's kill everyone. The thing I like about that pairing is there's some scenes where it's quite apparent that it's a glove puppet, a good glove puppet, when sort of Ambrosius is like staring around a corner or something and has to do a facial expression. And then there's like scenes where like Didymus is charging into battle where it's like, that is a dog with an action figure on its back.
Yep.
But it works because Didymus's entire sort of physicality is he's very bouncy. Almost like he's a slightly inferior puppet. His arms are very stiff and he moves like his arms are on poles, because they probably are. And that when he's just like on a dog riding along, it doesn't actually look out of place because it fits with his physicality we've seen so far.
Yeah.
I think Didymus is like the first real kind of Muppet type character.
Yeah.
Arguably you've got the goblins, but you don't really see them for extended amounts of time.
You could see him popping up in Treasure Island or something.
Yeah.
You don't actually have a goblin character as such. You have goblins, but you don't actually have them as a recognised character.
Yeah. But Didymus does remind me of a mix of, like, as we said earlier, Rizzo and the bunny. The one who plays the street urchin in Christmas Carol. But I can't remember the name of the Muppet character.
I know what you mean.
Basically, like, if you put that... Let's call him Clyde, whether it's his name or not, and Didymus, and say, this was before heroin, this is after heroin.
It's Bean Bunny.
Bean Bunny.
It's good because I mean, it's not. It's got a serious streak through it, but there were comedy and there's comedy in it. But there was nothing that was out and out silly. So when Didymus comes in, he's a bit of a breath of fresh air, literally, because you've got the Bog of Eternal Stench. I just love the fact it's never explained why he can't smell it.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably smell blindness, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's just lived there for so long. The Bog of Eternal Stench, there's sort of conflicting reports on it's either based on Burton-upon-Trent or Minworth.
It's got to be Burton-upon-Trent.
Okay.
I've been to Burton-upon-Trent. Yeah.
I've always wondered, even when I was a kid, would it not be that their feet would be now, have a horrible smell to them?
Yeah, because the rocks come out of the water.
Yeah, and so I thought that, I was like, that's got to be it. And then Sarah wore shoes as she went across. So I was like, okay, you can say that her shoes might smell. Yeah. But then Ludo's got no shoes on, so my theory went to shit.
Smelled bad.
Yeah.
And I giggled like the 13-year-old I still am. When there was just you just stepping on those rocks and you could do
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's just the fact that you've got Ludo's, which is proper full-on beefy, and then you've got Didymus going, which was good. Which again, it's kind of that Monty Python-ish thing, isn't it? I think overall with those characters that we've discussed so far, it is kind of Scarecrow, Lion, Tin Man, but without deeper characterization of them, and that's my only concern with it. I mean, obviously you've got the Fairy at the beginning where that kind of is a bit of a role reversal. That's a myth about how fairies actually are, and they're horrible little bitches, basically. But then Ludo is good in himself. There's nothing really deeper. You know what I mean? Where it's all on Hoggle. And Didymus has a bit of characterization, but as you say, it's the light relief 3/4 of the way through the movie. And Hoggle's got a great story, but it just feels a little bit like it's a little bit heavy weighted towards him more than any of the other characters, really.
Fair.
Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, how many times does he turn in the film? At least 3.
He's the Lando Calrissian of Labyrinth.
I think the major betrayal where he does give her the peach is genuinely very, very sad. I can't remember exactly what it says, but it says damn Jareth and damn me as he runs off. That's genuinely very sad, and it's the ballad of a coward, and he has his redemption at the end. And I think because Ludo was never a coward, I guess Hoggle does get the meat of everything, really, because he has a redemption arc that the other characters don't need.
There's an alternate universe where Ludo snatches the peach before Sarah eats it. And we see what happens when Ludo goes into a dream.
I'd like to think it's exactly the same. So just...
The ballroom scene with Ludo and David Bowie.
Yeah, but in that alternative reality, it's Sting.
Yeah.
Ludo in a white dress.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I'd say the whole jewelry and it's plastic, the meetups of Jareth and Hoggle and how that's worked out is interesting. So I think he's a really interesting character, Hoggle, and I do like it. And as you say, the flippy floppy. In X-Files world, the Alex Krycek of the world, and I'm sure there's other allusions to different other characters right through that will always take twist and turn and come through. It's quite a trope, really, but I do find it interesting because he wants to be a friend, and he just he's afraid of the power of the Goblin King, which I know we alluded to before, which is where does that power shift to her rather than him, and I think that's maybe the problem with it, I think. But I do think overall that's great. It's just a shame we didn't get more Jareth and Sarah in that relationship.
Yeah, definitely. It's odd because I thought there was this weird tinge of sadness in it as well, where obviously she's like the theatre kid, and when she's in the Goblin world, she immediately starts telling people that they're friends. And they're massively surprised that someone would want to be their friend. Like Hoggle, like Ludo's surprise, he was like, friend. I remember Ludo not actually being as eloquent as he is in the film.
I want to be Ludo's friend.
Yeah.
Ludo's awesome.
Ludo can reach things.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. It'd be a very useful friend.
Yeah, but this is just that twinge of sadness of... It seems to be with all the non-goblin people that live in the Goblin Kingdom.
Yeah.
It's just like living there is quite miserable because of the goblins. And so none of them are friends, none of them have banded together to fight against any of this because they're probably outnumbered.
Yeah. It's the rock biter and never ending story was what I was got them getting a bit confused with. My memory's kind of a little bit jarred between those two, but I mean, again, it goes back to her imagination, doesn't it? Is she manifesting? I mean, obviously, I haven't thought about it in this much detail, but how is she manifesting these characters? Like, is it parts of her psyche? You know, is there an element of that? I don't know. This is me spitballing a little bit, really, without thinking about it too much.
I think that's kind of summed up at the very end when they all reappear.
Yeah.
Because not only does Ludo, Didymus, Ambrosius, and Hoggle appear, the Fireys appear, who were trying to take her head off.
Yeah.
And goblins.
The goblins who were shooting cannons at her, and the
Yeah.
hoarder lady who was trying to convince her to stay so she lost Toby. And they're all there, and they're all about to play Scrabble. And I'd have told half of them to piss off because they tried to kill me.
Yeah, but if
Yeah.
it is part of her psyche, then, and like we said at the top of the hour, the fact that they've got the two separate things there, it's certainly intriguing from that perspective. So we talked about Hoggle. Anything else that we need to discuss?
I've only got 2 more notes left that we haven't discussed. And they're both about 2 little jokes that are in there that I only noticed yesterday when watching it for the 4,000th time. Ambrosius, in the battle, there's a little bit where he sort of rears up and neighs like a horse that I'd never noticed before. And the bit where he's running off and then turns round, there's a brake screeching sound.
Yes.
The brake screech was brilliant.
Oh, yeah, the brake screech, yeah.
And then the other bit that I noticed that I'd never noticed before, when they finally get to the gates of Goblin Castle, there's 2 milk bottles on the doorstep. Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, just because why not?
Just a quick thing. We were talking about the Wizard of Oz comparisons and how like Ludo, Didymus, and Hoggle are like the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Lion. Didymus, when he finally gets going, kicks ass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
When he gets into the joust with the other goblin, he whoops him. He's sort of...
Yeah, he's like more of a badass than Ludo probably could be.
Yeah.
So like you get the impression that Ludo's the muscle, whereas like it's Didymus. Didymus is like got no fear at all.
He's like Lister when the
there's like one part where he- like when he's-
polymorphs got him.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, but it's like but there's a bit where like he's surrounded by 6 of them, and I can't remember what he says, but he says something like, "Oh, is that it?" Or
he says something like, "If you surrender now, I'll treat you well," or something like that. I was like, "I won't treat you badly." And when he's got like 6 spears right at his face,
like a massive badass.
I loved it. He was my favourite character in the film. Was Didymus, and to a lesser extent Ambrosius.
Yeah, Didymus made the film. I felt like the film kind of he added to the film. Comes into it quite late, I thought, so he's not in it for good.
Yeah, it's like the third act, pretty much, really,
Yeah.
isn't it? Like middle of the second act into the third.
If there was ever a spin-off, it would be like a Puss in Boots, Shrek sort of thing with Didymus.
Yeah, could say that.
Yeah.
Where does he find Ambrosius? How does he lose his eye? How does he wind up at the bottom of Eternal Stench? Who put him there? Because somebody must have got him to do it. Because he said, didn't he say he was sworn or oath-bound or something to guard the bridge?
Yeah.
And why can't he smell it?
Okay, so let's go around the table, because I think we've kind of got to the end of the discussion now. So, Carl, anything final from you?
Again, I think I'm leaning more towards the Matt side of the table with this, in that I remember watching it as a kid, but watching it again now, there is a sort of disconnect for me in terms of nostalgia. Maybe it's because there's other stuff I watched more, or maybe it's because I'm not a big fantasy guy myself. And then looking at it with a critical eye, it's not poorly written. It seems like just a series of set pieces.
The D&D plot that I was saying.
Yeah, and there's story elements that are probably in the book that they just either didn't shoot or thought they could get away with not doing, and it's to the detriment of the whole piece. There's still some excellent bits in it. Technically, it's fantastic, but standing back and looking at it with a critical eye, it's not as good as I remember.
Mark?
I acknowledge all of the criticism that people have said about this film, but Bowie is God, and this is the greatest children's film of all fucking time. I have enjoyed analysing it and making it a little bit more of a, a study. But this Christmas, I'm going to sit down with my friends and I'm going to watch Labyrinth. I'm going to get drunk and it will be fucking great, just like it was last Christmas, the Christmas before, the Christmas before, and the Christmas before.
I just want that to hard cut to Mark unconscious from a glass of 2 of wine, like 5 minutes in. And Ollie like, yes, Mark, we're watching it again, like we do every Christmas.
Matt, what about yourself? I know, obviously, it's not about reappraising it for you, but based off what you've heard, has that enhanced, has it made you see things differently in respect to the actual film itself? What do you make sense talking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I've only ever watched it once, and I think probably later rather than sooner, I'll probably give it a bit of distance, probably watch it again just to try and perhaps lot of our discussion into it again, and I'll probably appreciate it more on a second time. I still think that I'm 30 years too late for it. I don't have that nostalgic link to it, and there's probably I fully admit there's probably going to be a bunch of films that I loved as a kid that people haven't watched, and they'll probably just go, oh yeah, which I think is fine. And it's the Tron thing, I think, that I mentioned at the very start. But I mean, there are elements to it, and I think it's an important film in the Muppets canon, not Muppets, Henson Company canon. I think they probably learnt a lot. And I think without this film, I don't think we would have gotten The Christmas Carol the way it is. We would not have gotten Treasure Island the way it is. So I fully appreciate it for what it does in terms of it. And I think in terms of like how it looks, I mean, okay, it's got that 80s kind of look to it, but there's that kind of production sheen to it where you got a human walking around as a model village, but it's got a charm to it that I appreciate, and that kind of battle sequence I thought was really good. I love Didymus. I think Didymus taps into what I love about stuff like Treasure Island and Christmas Carol, that kind of chaotic Muppets humour. Yeah, but I just don't. But again, then you've got like the character Sarah I just cannot click with at all. And part of it I think might be just because of like Jennifer Connelly's perhaps. I don't know whether it was one of her first acting roles or something. There's just something about it that just didn't click with me.
Yeah, it's interesting because on that is they actually cast her because of her audition, so that was the thing why they didn't go with other people, because the actual audition was like, no, we'll cast her.
Man, Marissa Tomei's audition must have been awful.
So yeah, it's interesting because you can see the original casting video. It's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere. So yeah, that's interesting. What about yourself, Colin? What do you make of it after our discussion?
Still love it. As we said earlier, I grew up with it, watching it as a kid. Had a Labyrinth sticker book. Watched it fairly regularly when I was a little kid. Watched it sporadically as I was an adult. And then since meeting Helen, when it's her favourite film ever, seen it loads of times with her. We've introduced Elodie to it, watched it with Elodie loads. It's probably our family's film, I think. And it's great watching it through my own eyes, but also watching it as I watch films with Elodie. You know, seeing it through an 8-year-old's eyes it completely opens it back up again. And it's, like Mark says, I don't know if I'd say it is definitely the greatest kids film of all time, but it's definitely up there. And if you don't agree, your mother's a fragging aardvark.
Before Kurt wraps up, I think we've been very well behaved during this, so I think we should take 60 seconds to get out as much as we can about the package.
It's definitely there, isn't it?
There's a scene where he pulls Hoggle in and it's right into the old spiders from Mars. Do you think he picked the outfit?
I've always wanted to do Jareth as a Halloween outfit.
We're not far off now, mate, to be honest.
Well, no, we'll post that picture on. But I think you would have to do something ludicrous with your codpiece. Either that or have a gigantic penis, which I don't, unfortunately.
I don't think in Bowie's case it was a codpiece.
I don't know. Can you get a prosthetic penis that looks that realistic in 1986?
Oh, I was going to say in 86, probably not. But Boogie Nights, that was a prosthetic.
Isn't Ludacris with your codpiece also playing glass?
Is that a collaboration? Ludacris and someone's codpiece.
I mean, I hate to say it because it'll kind of draw groans, but there's always Archie.
Oh, no.
That goes into a corner.
I don't get that reference at all.
I don't.
Creighton's penis.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's a deep cut. Christ.
Don't want to mention deep cuts when you're talking about penises.
It's midnight. Shall we sign off? No, Kurt, what were your final thoughts about this?
Thank you. I found it fascinating. I loved Labyrinth as a kid. I've seen it sporadically over the years. 2016, I'd say, was the last time I saw it. Watching it now and learning about the book stuff has really, really intrigued me in the way that I view TV shows and like some Millennium and Seven and all of the darkness that I really enjoy has piqued my interest into seeing about the book itself, because I think it would be really, really interesting to see what they do with it. And there's books about the actual ballroom scene being like completely spread out, and that she actually does go down that rabbit hole and never comes out again. So there's a lot more to it than I actually thought about. And I'm going to take some time to actually watch this a few more times and trying to, with that in mind now, just to kind of really kind of pull that darkness shifting out of it, really, because I think it's really, really intriguing. I also want to seek out if there's any other Labyrinth podcasts out there with a female perspective. I really think that would be really interesting to have a listen to, because I think it would be really, really interesting.
If you find one, let me know. We'll stick it on the Twitter.
Yeah, will do. Yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. But yes, it's definitely reappraised it, and I think there's a lot more to come with Labyrinth, which I was not expecting on just watching it, because I, like you, Mark, was expecting to go, yay, love it, it's great, isn't it, fantastic? But there's a lot more to it than I imagined. So, socials. It's time for us to depart with Matt literally just fast a kip right now with his eyes open. So we'll start with you, Matt, so you can get yourself off to bed. Where can people find you online?
You can find me online on Instagram and Threads, manning the Red Dwarf pod Instagram and Threads. So if you say hello to us on that, it'll be me. Somehow they agreed to let me have keys to that. But
it's because I didn't want to fucking do it, Matt.
Fair enough. Yeah, but then other than that, you can find my music podcast, Pick a Disc, under Pick a Disc on all the places you find stuff. And ask us about Loom, which is a point-and-click adventure game podcast, which was supposed to be monthly, but stopped because I started creating adventure games instead. So, yeah.
Mark, what about you?
So, it's at Mark Adams HC on Twitter and Instagram. And my other active podcast at the moment is Chucky Vision, which is my podcast about Child's Play and Chucky. That's at Chucky Vision on Twitter. And the other thing I thought I might mention is that I'm now the tour guide for the Manchester Cheese Crawl. And it's exactly what you think it is. It is a tour of Manchester with lots of stops that give you cheese.
Eating so much cheese that you can only crawl.
True.
That's how you've got to do it.
Well, and if you want to do that, you can get a discount with my name. If you Google the Manchester Cheese Crawl And then when you get to the checkout, put in Mark 20 and you get a 20% discount off the Manchester cheese crawl.
I'm absolutely doing that at some point.
Cool. Nice. Colin, what about yourself?
Got 2 other podcasts, free with this month's issue and We Dig Music, both about music. You all should listen to them. They're awesome. Around about this sort of time, we'll have just put out the We Dig Music Best of 2024 episode. So if you want to find a load of brilliant music from this year and whatever Tracy puts in there, then that's worth a listen.
Savage.
And the free with this month's issue, we will be doing one of the free CDs from either Mojo or Uncut magazine, which is one of their best of the year ones. So we'll be normally ripping into that and going, I don't know why they fucking put this track on here, it's shite. And they'll both be in your podcast feeds if you search for either free with this month's issue or We Dig Music. You can find them both and Matt's podcast Pick a Disc on wedigpodcast.com.
Excellent. Carl.
I don't think I'll have anything out by Christmas time. I should be appearing in the House of Pain TV Christmas special, which we'll be shooting very, very soon. I'm not sure what we're actually doing on it. I'm pushing very hard for a It's a Wonderful Lifestyle storyline with wrestling matches. And then I'll probably be spending most of the Christmas period trying to pressure Matt into doing the Latham list as a Patreon exclusive in 2025, where we sit down and go through the list of all the films Matt's not seen.
You can find me on Linktree, linktr.ee/Muldrake, MULDRAKE, where I am on a multitude of different podcasts, and I'll leave it at that so you can find us. So, remember, Fair Maiden, should you need us...
Yes, should you need us, for any reason at all.
I need you, Hoggle. I don't know why, but every now and again in my life, for no reason at all, I need you. All of you.
Yeah. You do? Well, why didn't you say so?
I say, anyone for a game of Scrabble?
Yes, me. Hot Bonus would definitely like to play Scrabble.
Merry fucking Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Shipwrecked and Comatose is a podcast brought to you by the Film Stories Podcast Network.
The show was created and produced by Mark Adams and Kurt North.
The logo was designed by Bryan, and the theme tune was composed and performed by me, Colin Jackson Brown.
I suppose I'm here as well. Matt Latham.
Follow us on Twitter at Red Dwarf Pod and follow the network on Twitter at Film Stories.
Ma.